Hello. Hello. How's everyone? Here, I'm just gonna lower it down a little. Oh boy, do we have ourselves a stream tonight. But first, I just have to post L links in the chat. Or in the Discord servers I'm part of. Already posted the YouTube link. And there we go. Okie dokie. Let's see, we have Dusty in the YouTube chat. How are you, friend? Let's see. Oh yeah. I had a fun time on Dash Attack's show today. We talked about like gaming news and Spyro the Dragon and Fire Emblem. It was a fun old time. That's something funny I just saw. But I hope to be on again in the future. I just gotta see if I can make some time. I know I am gonna be on. What was his name? Let's see. I gotta go back to the Dash stream. I'm always bad with names if I'm being honest. Digny. There we go. I figured it out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to be on Digny's show on Rumble in the future as well. He sent me an invite, so I'm going to accept one of these days. I just have to make some room on the old schedule here. And also, let's see. I'm also just gonna see if I got a response back. Ooh. I did get a response. I will respond. Okay, so this is from yesterday. Okay. I will respond to that a little later. I have this stream right now. Oh fuck, it's hot in here. I tell you what, it's hot. I'm not just talking about myself. Phoenix, what's up? How dare you talk negatively at Wakanda? Oonga da boonga! Yeah, it's gonna be a fun stream tonight. Very based. Probably gonna get me shadow banned, as if I'm already not shadow banned. But we are growing. There are more people who who want to become popsicle sticks. So there's that. I'm grateful for these subs I currently have. This is totally gonna shoot my growth all the way into the dirt. But I have to say it. I feel compelled to. But we're gonna wait a little bit longer. I think probably like 2 more minutes. Are we talking about the farmer G-side? We will be talking about what the farmers. Yes, absolutely. That is relevant to what we will be talking about, because it's ongoing. That, you know, the South African government likes to cover it up. That, oh no, it's not happening. And it's like, the fuck you talking about? It's like we keep learning that it's happening. Doesn't help that you're making songs about killing the boar. We will most certainly be seeing that infamous video today. And you know, that's the thing. They like to paint it off as like, oh, you know, just a fictional struggle song. It's like, oh, it's not real. You know, we're just singing because it's a struggle song, and so yeah, we're just trying to struggle, vent our frustrations. We don't actually want to kill the boar. Yeah, I remember looking up that song on Brave, and even Brave will describe it as a struggle song, which is like, no, it's an anthem for genocide. They use the it's just fiction excuse as well, because for the most part, yes, music is indeed fiction, but unlike visual or even printed media, the effects that music has on the mind has been documented for ages now. Yes, that absolutely can impact somebody's reality. Like, there's a reason why it's like, oh, gee whiz, I wonder why, you know, hedonism is still popular among, black culture in America today. Well, what's rap music all about? Killing each other, having sex with random bitches, doing all sorts of drugs, and drinking too much. That's all rap music is. Yeah, it's just jokes, bro. It's like, yeah, I remember seeing that excuse too. The leftists always like to use that one, but it's like, no. Be serious for once. I could see through your irony bullshit. And it's like, yeah, you just want to kill Whitey. It's that simple, really. They just want to kill Whitey. They hate Whitey for bullshit reasons. And so they want to kill him. Reason why I don't lump myself into that category is because I'm not full white. I'm gonna take a sip of my drink for this tangent I'm already going on. Good stuff. But basically, what I have planned here tonight, so about a month ago, Callum, almost 2 months ago now, Callum of the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, he basically has been doing kind of some tourism all around the world. If we could I'll take a look at his channel real quick, Britannica. So let's see, he has toured in, holy shit, he really has been touring all over the world. Let's see, so scrolling up. Tourism in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Tourism in Serbia with migrant hunters. Tourism in New Russia. Tourism in Europe's real fake countries. tourism in merry old England. Callum is an Englishman, which kind of makes sense, in that he'd eventually tour his own country, but wait a second. The thumbnail. The thumbnail, there's fucking Arabic in it. This isn't England, Callum, you clickbaiting bastard. It's Englandistan. And tourism in European Russia, tourism in Poland, Fallout tourism in Good Springs, Zimbabwe, Finland, Belarus. Damn, that's a rather short video. Well, not so much. Guess he couldn't go to Belarus. El Salvador. Fallout New Vegas. Looks like he actually went to, Vegas, I guess. Wales, Iraq, Scotland, Ireland, Syria, and now South Africa. So that's Callum. Or that's Callum's channel. It seems like he mainly travels around the world. So, it's just cool. You actually get to see what a country is actually like in the modern day, without the propaganda. I've had my own relatives tell me when I say the majority of the world, normies hate me because I'm a white male, and they just say that's a Q conspiracy theory. Yeah. Wow. It's a lot of that shit's just ingrained, and QAnon is a Fed psyop as well, if you don't know. Because of course the Feds, I think it started, to my knowledge, I think it started out organic and then it got completely co-opted by Feds. So, yeah. It's entirely Fed-based now, so. Alrighty. I think that's a bit of enough of a preamble here. Let's get into, and we are basically going to be spending the whole stream watching this documentary here. Because I think it's important. I think this is probably the best documentary about modern South Africa. And you get to see all the angles of it. The good, the bad, and the de-development of a once thriving nation.
30 seconds in Africa. A minute passes.
Oof. I love the Chinese music in here. It's totally Afrikaans. Oh, that's North Korean pop music. Okay. Sorry, I have difficulties separating Chinese and Korean at times. I think the reason why he uses, North Korean music, because not gonna lie, the way that things in South Africa are going, the comparison to North Korea can absolutely be made. Absolutely. How, you're probably asking? Well, we have a pretty harsh top-down government, but whereas in North Korea it applies to everyone, in South Africa it applies only to white people. Oh, that's a cute bird. Okay,
So the original plan for this video was I was going to travel all over South Africa and reach the different ethnic groups that exist all over the place. The Zulu, the Xhosa, the Venda, the Afrikaners, the English, etc. And, well, because of reasons of time and crime, this ended up not really being possible. It's also the fact that South Africa is...
I have a feeling it's mainly crime that is the reason why you couldn't... interview like everybody. Let's see. I'm just gonna do South Africa murder rate compared to everyone else. 45 point. Oh my goodness. 45.2 per 100,000 people. My goodness. That was back in 2024, 2025, which is 959% higher than the average G20 country, 4.27 per 100,000. This rate places South Africa amongst the highest globally, significantly exceeding rates in major economies like the United States, 6.8, Brazil, 19.3, and Mexico to 26.1. Wow. Countries with the highest murder rate. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. We gotta see per capita. Yeah, just let's see. St. Kitts and Nevis holds the highest recorded murder rate, with figures ranging from 61.2 to 64.16 per 100,000 people, depending on the data source and years. Okay, so South Africa is very high up there. South Africa is surpassed by Ecuador, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No, Dusty, per 100,000. Per 100,000. But yeah, I could also see why a lot of South Africans decide to move out of South Africa, even if they're not white. Like Sulky Cats is not a white South African, but there's like a WoW YouTuber or a lore YouTuber I'd listen to every now and then. I think her name is Discordian Kitty. Like, she is white as the driven snow. I can see why she moved out of South Africa, and I think she lives in Ireland. So South African moving to Ireland. Where have I heard that before? I'm of course talking about Spoon. Yeah, Sulky. Yeah, I could tell she's mixed. She's not white. That was a fun little divest into murder rates. And that's only one kind of violent crime that occurs in South Africa on a constant basis. Keep that in mind, friends. Robbery is also very common. Same with carjackings.
It's huge. People don't really seem to give it credit. This thing is half the size of Europe. What I ended up doing in country is I spent most of my time with Afrikaners. So this video is going to focus on their perspective quite a bit. And so from that perspective, let's do a brief history. For them, the history of South Africa begins with the landing in 1652 of Jan van Riebeeck and some Dutch settlers from the Dutch East India Company. But they were not alone, the natives being the same as those in Zimbabwe, the Khoisan. The San being hunter-gatherers, and the Khoi advanced all the way to nomadic cattle herders, together known as the Khoisan. Neither are considered anything to do with the modern concept of a Bantu African, and were in fact bullied off their land by the black Bantu African migration south. The Khoi were found to be uncooperative as farm workers, so they imported Muslim slaves from Dutch Indonesia, with the population quickly becoming 50% slave, 50% Dutch. A Khoi was sent to learn from the East India Company in Indonesia, only to find the natives had been subjugated, and returned to rally the Khoi to wage war against the Dutch, which in their eyes consisted of cattle raids. Naturally, they lost that one. The colony was...
Gee whiz, I wonder why they would lose that one. You have a society that is advanced to the point of, decent, well, I'm gonna be nice here for a little bit, decent cattle herding, versus a society that has guns and other technological advancements, but mainly guns.
Was dubbed Cape Colony, with its capital Cape Town, where Jan van Riebeeck landed, and next 150 odd years it would expand. with the Dutch interacting with the natives, the slaves, the German and French immigrants that would turn up, until their language became so distinct it became known as Cape Dutch, and would eventually...
We having a serious problem. Oh, yeah, that's how I read that. Maybe like Damien could possibly read that better than I could.
Changed from being a dialect.
Onset in Problem. Oh boy, that is quite the tongue twister.
To a completely different language,
one can learn Afrikaans.
Known as Afrikaans. Meanwhile, the borders of Cape Colony now expanded from the Western Cape to the Eastern Cape, bordering a new people.
You know, if I ever had the chance to ask Daisuke Ishibatari a question, that would be one of them. Can you speak Afrikaans? Because Daisuke is part South African.
On one side of the Fish River,
it's on his dad's
the Dutch
side.
colony. On the other side of the river, lands occupied by African Bantus. Unlike the Stone Age Khoisan, the Bantus had Iron Age weapons, and had taken the Eastern Cape from the Khokoi as it had better access to water. The Bantu Africans are divided into endless lists of clans at the time,
I also
fighting
find
over
Dutch to be
cattle,
a funny language.
the three most important groups being the Xhosa, Zulu, and Venda, with the Xhosa Africans conducting sporadic raids across the Fish River. Dutch farmers on the frontier formed militias and became known as Boers, the word Boer just meaning farmer in English. The Boers and the Khoisan worked together to keep the Africans on their side of the river. Not that that mattered, as post-Napoleonic War, the entire colony fell under British rule. The Afrikaners were no longer the ruling class of their newly created country. The British were. And so English became the language of the colony, replacing their Afrikaans language that they used. The Dutch legal system was replaced with the English legal system, and it was now ruled over by appointed British officials who were hopeless and also didn't really care to understand the Afrikaners or their concerns.
So the thing is, right, I have a feeling if the British actually cared that these people are not like the Indians or other non-white groups that are under our grasp, maybe we should treat them not as cattle. Maybe that would have had South Africa be under English rule for a little bit longer.
Not to mention, who would want to? I mean, these people had devolved into Africans. They'd gone native. My good man, feral, uncivilized, barely even European. Now, the British tried to enforce their claim by importing British settlers. But what was weird is the British settlers also ended up hating the British authorities just as much as the Afrikaners. But with all of these things going on, there is another big one, which is that the British were also the people who first abolished slavery, and so enforced that upon the colony. So the Afrikaners had lost all of that stuff already, and then the ones who...
Yeah, as a Christian, it's like I'm not a fan of slavery. It is considered an evil. At the same time, when it comes to the removal of such an institution, it can't be done instantaneously. It takes time. You need to get people to like know how to do basic arithmetic, read and write. You can't just immediately enfranchise them. Like America understood this. Like you can't immediately enfranchise for like those who were just immediately free. It's like, no, they need to learn how the country works. They need to learn the language. They need to learn how to do a lot of things. And yes, America did fail in that regard too. We did things too quickly. Too quickly. And for South Africa, it seems to be the same case, that things happen too quickly.
Who owned slaves running the farms lost their property. And so a whole bunch of them said, screw this, screw the British. We built this country from scratch once before. Let's go out into the wilderness of Africa and do it again. The Afrikaners left into the wilderness, becoming the Voortrekkers. One group ran into the Matabele king Mzilikazi, who later migrates and takes over Zimbabwe. Another group ran into the Zulus, and upon trying to sign a land agreement with the Zulus for the Afrikaners to have their own land, after retrieving stolen cattle for the Zulus, the Zulus decided to slaughter them, and then march on their convoy to slaughter the rest.
Wow, shocking. Very shocking.
The Afrikaners formed up on Blood River and made a vow to God that if they survived the battle, they would build a church to him and forever remember this day, known as the Day of the Vow. And miraculously, they won and established their Afrikaans republics. Meanwhile, the British crossed the Fish River to subjugate the Iron Age Xhosa and Zulu with the 3,000 years tech advantage, and unlike the Dutch, the industrial...
Yeah, it does go hard. It really does go hard, Dusty. They prayed to God, and our Lord sure delivered.
Base and navy to supply a large invasion force. The Africans lost, but do manage to embarrass the British at Isandlwana, outnumbering the British 13-1, but they still won.
For some people wondering, why is Callum just giving us this history lesson? I actually think this history lesson is rather important to understand the current climate of South Africa. It's like, if you're going to talk about something, a country in its current day, it's probably best to look at its history. And South Africa, like what you mentioned, Dusty, has a very complex and an intricate history. A lot of moving, a lot of fighting, a lot of moving, a lot of fighting. I know I'm grossly oversimplifying it, but it is really interesting.
On the battle. It wasn't until the 20th century when the British would try again, when the Afrikaners and Swaziland were the last unconquered African states in southern Africa. An enormous gold mine was discovered in an Afrikaner republic, so a small mining town was set up next to it, called Johannesburg. Now, the owners of the mine were known as the Randlords, and they imported cheap labour from Cape Colony, cheap white labour, to work in the mine so they could make their profits. A lot of
Swaziland is still around, I believe. Let me look that up. Swaziland. Eswatini. It's called Eswatini today. And Swaziland was its former name. Gamma, what's up? How you doing, man?
They imported 60,000.
But yeah, I don't really know much about Swaziland, Dusty. I assume it probably is going through some similar issues that South Africa and Rhodesia are going through.
Poor whites in a republic which only had 30,000 Afrikaner males. And so if these mine workers were given the right to vote, they would likely, or it was feared, that they would vote to join with Britain, and suddenly the Afrikaners would lose their country yet again, which meant these people were now an oppressed minority who needed to be liberated by the British. Following this, the British decided they would build up massive forces and then shock and awe the Afrikaner states. And this second war is insane. Everyone looks like a comic book villain version of what you imagine. So the British were led by Neville Chamberlain's dad, who is the most imperialist-looking British man I've ever seen. And on the other side, the Afrikaners were led by a bunch of bearded wildermen. The British casus belli of "Gimme that, it's mine" was internationally mocked, with the Afrikaners being supported by the Germans. And so preemptively, knowing this was coming, the Afrikaners mobilized 30,000 men into Afrikaner commando units. The British mobilized 350,000 British soldiers, 150,000 Imperial soldiers, and 100,000 African troops. They relieved the sieges and then marched on the Afrikaner states and captured the capital of Pretoria. And for the British, this should have been the end of the matter. The enemy army was routed, their capital had fallen, the war was over. But southern Africa is huge, and the men just retreated into the countryside to wage a guerrilla war. The war dragged on for 3 years, with the British eventually resorting to scorched earth.
If there's one word I'd describe the Afrikaners, it would be resilient. They are a very damn resilient people. They have survived through a lot of bullshit. And they don't like giving up their country without a fight.
earth tactics of destroying every homestead, poisoning every well, and then kidnapping the civilian population
Precisely,
and forcing them
Dusty.
into concentration camps overburdened with disease and no food. What you're looking at is a 7-year-old girl. The British could not destroy the Afrikaners' ability to fight, and so they took away everything that there was worth fighting for. Swaziland, watching the British get this close to exterminating the Afrikaners off the face of the earth, immediately declared itself a British protectorate and pledged allegiance to London. And so the British rolled the entire region into this thing now known as the Union of South Africa, with a new flag, a Dutch flag with an emblem of the 2 Afrikaner republics that had just been annexed, and a British flag next to it. But what about those poor whites that had just been liberated? Well, not so much. The men who benefited most from destroying the Afrikaner states and stealing the gold and diamonds in the ground were a group of men known as the Rand.
More than I could say for a lot of my own countrymen, as we're flooded with the third world in any way possible. Yeah, the Brits were most certainly ruthless. That is a word you could use to describe Imperial England. Was ruthless.
Landlords, who were going to become stupidly wealthy from running the mines. Now, 2/3 of the landlords were Jewish, and I bring that up for a reason. It's going to become relevant later. And these guys...
Ooh, Thank you for mentioning that, Callum. Ask your average South African what their opinion on Jews are. Doesn't matter if they're left wing or right wing, as long as they're not Jewish themselves. You just ask. I don't think they'll have a very positive opinion of them.
Well, they imported this cheap white labor when it was an Afrikaner state. But these white people, they were cheap, but they were demanding pay rises, and there was.
Uh-oh! They don't like hearing that word. They don't like hearing that word. Pay rise, pay raise, or pay rise.
It was cheaper labor. The Africans. Johannesburg went from being majority white to minority white, and then there was a armed white nationalist Anglo-Saxon uprising against the landlords with this...
Based. Very based. Phoenix is actually more like 113. So 113 and counting.
Group of men forming themselves into commando units, just like the Afrikaners had before, to fight against the British administration. And this far-right white nationalist Anglo-Saxon rebellion was led by the Communist Party of South Africa.
What the hell is this?
Confused me the first time watching this. I was like, the communists? Really? The communists? But it seems like even communism has the spirit of the Afrikaner in it.
Yeah, no kidding. Their slogan was, "Workers of the world unite for a white South Africa." For those of you wondering what the hell, well, the communist parties at this time saw themselves as the representatives of the industrial worker, and so these poor whites were the guys who had really built these mines and therefore had some ownership to the damn thing and should be compensated. So they were representing them. So they...
Yeah, I find it ironic. It's like, you know, communism in its origin is Jewish, and then it somehow got turned, in South Africa, got turned into a more nationalistic sort of thing. I mean, still, I wouldn't really recommend South Africa going down the communist route. I mean, well, at the time, I should say, but now it's like we know what happened. It's like they went down the communist route pretty hardcore. But at least they somewhat cared about the natives. I say somewhat because it's like, it just seems like race is just kind of was just a unifier. I don't think the Communist Party was really meant to last. That's just what I'm getting at right now.
They saw the Africans coming in and working for cheaper as just as bad as the capitalist landlords who were living off the backs of the poor whites. these Africans also hadn't built the place and were now living off the back of their work. But they were
Okay,
about as
I
successful
see.
as the Afrikaners. The British turned up with artillery, machine guns, and tanks and put the thing down. British really were the original tankies. Only 12 years after the First Boer War, with the concentration camps, World War I broke out. And these Afrikaners were now being asked to die for the British to fight the Germans. And they really didn't want to, because the Germans were the only people who supported them. And so a bunch of them decided to do an open rebellion, but were crushed.
Yeah, I could see why they would do that. Yeah, Germany was actually interested in ensuring that they actually have a land, their own land, to let their people prosper.
Crushed by the British. When World War I was over, there was a chance that everyone could come together. And then World War II happened. Now, being asked to die for the people who put you in concentration camps once is bad enough. Being asked to die for them twice is insane. And so 350,000 Afrikaners joined a Nazi organization to...
My God, my Volk, my land, South Africa. Yeah, I could see why the Afrikaners would decide to join a Yahtzee group. I could see why.
Fight back against the British and get their country back, sympathizing with the Nazi enemy because they were sick of dying for the British, the ones who had put them in concentration camps. It's a wild, wild situation. Also not big fans of the Jews.
Yeah, gee whiz, I wonder why.
Might have had something to do with the landlords. And so...
Yeah, definitely had something to do with the landlords. The switch up politically from commies to Yahtzee is wild. Well, here's the thing: there is a common thread between the commie party, which also the commie party, and the Yahtzee one, right? There's a commonality. South Africa for South Africans. That is quite literally the common thread. It is nationalism. Die-hard, hardcore nationalism. They want to, on the commie end, they actually want to reap the fruits of their labor. They don't want a bunch of low-skilled people to take jobs that are for them. And on the Yahtzee end of things, they are damn well sure going to ensure that South Africa is for South Africans. In a way, now thinking about it now, in a way, it's like the Communist Party of South Africa absolutely could be seen as a framework for National Socialism. Absolutely.
So the 1948 election was won by the Afrikaner National Party, who would stay in power for another 50 straight years. The party won on the platform of enforcing separation, known as apartheid in Afrikaans. But the leadership must...
Oh boy. Oh boy. Do I have a lot of things to say about apartheid. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I have to hold my tongues. You see? You see, I had to hold my tongues, all 8 of them.
Must have seen itself as also getting their damn country back from the British, and they sure weren't going to let it go away again. And so they decided to remove the British Queen as the head of state and became a republic, and then forced Afrikaner culture as the center point of South African life, with the death vow becoming a national holiday, for example. A lot of people see this period of history as kind of mad, but, well, the Afrikaners saw them as getting their own country back, and weirdly, they had a justification for the apartheid system, which is that the Africans had also lost their countries, and so the Afrikaners were going to give these people their countries back too. They set up a system known as Bantustans, meaning Bantu lands. The word stan just means land. Tajikistan, land of the Tajiks. Uzbekistan, land of the Uzbeks, etc. So the various Bantu stands would be set up, one for the Xhosa, one for the Zulu, one for the Venda, etc., etc., etc.
These black...
Basically, what apartheid actually was, it was not this uber racist system of just, oh, you can't, oh no, you can't intermingle. No. The whole point of it was, it's like, we have our land, you have your land, it's best that we keep it that way, and let's see how things develop. It also was a bit of an experiment too. Like, you know, in the States we did have segregation, but the African Americans did not have their own sort of country, you know? They were not given, I'm just gonna pull something from the top of my hat, like Louisiana. And Louisiana basically, if you're from Louisiana, if you're black and from Louisiana, you couldn't go into Florida or another state that is predominantly white. You just couldn't do that. That's basically how, apartheid might have worked in America. I'm just kind of, talking out of my ass here a little bit. Obviously, I think there would be more than just Louisiana, but that's basically the idea of it. We don't have to worry about interacting with each other, so we're free to develop our societies how we see fit.
People are as different to one another as we whites are. Africa is multinational, and it will and must develop as a number of nation states.
And he's absolutely correct here. Almost like it was a bad idea to remove it.
Some of them, like Jigsaw Land, as it was nicknamed, managed to get full independence from the white minority government. But these things were a bit of a joke. I mean, they had terrible borders, ridiculous levels of corruption, and also no international recognition. Most people think of the policy of apartheid as just those little signs that you would find in the capitals, which show which bench is for white people and which isn't, which of course comes off as comically evil in those senses. But
and yeah, there was, and don't get me wrong, there was still segregation in South Africa. Don't deny that. I don't deny that at all.
The apartheid government had this justification that they were giving back their nations. For the Africans, they were going to have their own lands again, their own countries, their own little kingdoms, as they originally did. But the thing is, South Africa just wasn't the place it was in 1900. In 1900, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Pretoria were all majority white, whereas by the time of independence after World War II, only Pretoria was, and only 60%. But this policy of separation became a real sticking point, and neither of the new superpowers particularly liked them. The United States or the Soviet Union, and the British Empire was now just this...
Yeah, there's a reason why Spoon does not like the American government all that well. I wonder what values the American government and the Soviet government, and incentives too, let's not forget incentives, for making South Africa be in line with the rest of the world. And let's not forget, too, that South Africa had a nuclear program. It was shut down, thankfully, before Mandela took power. But South Africa was on its way to becoming a global superpower. Yeah, South Africa had a nuclear program. It shocked me too at first. Meliotti, what's up? Greetings and most humble salutations. How are you, friend? We are talking about South Africa right now. But as I was explaining to Gammafart in chat, South Africa once had a nuclear program. It was on the cusp of being a global superpower, which obviously that would that would raise alarm bells for America and Russia. And obviously, America and Russia, they basically were trying to compete against each other of being a global superpower. And that would eventually become the Cold War, and America won the Cold War. And basically, our decaying bullshit state that we're living in right now, that's kind of, the rest of the nations kind of bow down to us. Well, we bowed down to Israel, so yeah, Israel's our bitch. In other words, let's see, incentives. You mean groups of certain people in our government, because we all know why Western society was constructed as such. Let's keep
fallen
going.
empire crumbling away. And so the only friends that South Africa had was Rhodesia to the north, being
Our
an
Greece
Anglo-Saxon
family.
white minority government, and Israel, also Southern Americans.
Israel? That's funny. And then I wonder why the American South would actually like South Africa, but I don't think the Afrikaners would really like the Southern Americans outside of that one commonality they might share. It's primarily because, again, America basically tried to interfere with South Africa for years. And eventually, they successfully did. Again, Nelson Mandela was viewed very favorably among America, especially in America.
Funny connections. The socialist side of the earth decided to fund a black insurgency to overthrow the white minority government. This time, they were going to go through the Communist Party of South Africa, who now were no longer about the industrial workers, but instead about black liberation, with the main organization being the African National Congress, or ANC.
The ANC is the current ruling party in South Africa, so they've been in power since '94. And, well, the ANC are a bunch of commies who despise whitey.
The ANC obviously won in the end. The strategy they deployed to get that victory was known as People's War, using base areas to then set up a, terror wing of the party.
Oh my goodness, that's something I can't say because I don't know how to pronounce it. Let's see, was the paramilitary wing, or MK was the paramilitary wing of the ANC, founded by Nelson Mandela in the wake of the Sharpeville massacre.
To conduct terror strikes against the population, planting bombs.
And yet, there's a reason why America, especially America, likes to paint Mandela as like, oh, this guy was a advocated for peace and separate and reunification. But it's like, holy shit! Like the Mandela's party was known in South Africa for its violence. It fucked things up via targeted violent strikes. Them's the facts. You can see in this picture right here.
For example, killing both black and white, until in the black areas of the country, the population had to make the decision of side with the ANC or...
Does that really surprise... that doesn't really surprise me that they'd be killing their own as well. The Black Lives... Remember the BLM riots back in 2020? Do you know how many black people were killed by their own during those? And do you know how many black-owned businesses were affected by rioters and just a whole bunch of other things? It's it really did fuck up the lives of black people. It did. It really did. Not only did it make race relations in this country worse, it also destroyed people's livelihoods. And people were killed, including children. Actually, a lot of children were killed by their own people. Yeah, I know everybody in here remembers the Summer of Love. How could you forget something like that? Just buildings burning, people dying. like, you know, just the whole Chaz Chop situation. It's like people, I think there might have been some deaths via starvation there. It was a nightmare. And keep in mind, that was not as bad as what was going on in South Africa at the time. The nationalistic spirit was not just among the whites. And the methods of channeling that nationalistic pride, that was not just limited to whites. But the way that I see it, when the whites were doing their thing, trying to expand out, break free from the British, last time I read through this stuff, they were not killing the innocent children of the blacks.
Or be killed. It's a pretty simple decision. And then they expanded this, terror campaign to the rest of the country, to the point that the minority white government could either accept that they were going to be in charge and capitulate, or lose half of the country to chaos. And so they capitulated. Well, with the fall of the white minority government and the handing over to the ANC, there's a whole bunch of stuff we could go into. Really complicated, can't be bothered, so detailed. I'll link a documentary in the description that I think is amazing, with all the backroom deals and stuff, interviewing the people who lived through it and conducted some of this stuff. But
we might have to watch a little bit of that after this.
The main takeaway was, for me, outside of South Africa, we get this image that the ANC were this unified African front with non-violent means. Whereas in reality, things were very different. There were opposition groups like the Inkatha Freedom Party, who were an alternative to the ANC. And so what do you do with competition? Well, you kill them. But regardless...
they're totally non-violent. Nelson Mandela was totally non-violent, people. Totally.
The black majority rule had finally come, and Nelson Mandela would ascend to be the leader of the country, a Xhosa in charge of the nation. And most people rejoiced at the idea that the violence could dissipate all of the...
No one destroys civilized black people quite like radicalized black people. Absolutely, Phoenix. Because it's the same, it happened in South Africa, it's happening in the States right now. There's a reason why people like Andre Williams continue to gain and grow a platform. Because it's like, he's brutally honest about this shit.
The race laws would be abolished, and it would no longer matter what race you are, but what kind of person you are, as to what you could achieve in this new South Africa. A minority of people weren't so enthusiastic. Mainly the Rhodesians, who had fled black majority rule in Rhodesia and had resettled in South Africa, and quite a lot of Afrikaners who were distrustful that this was all going to work out. Some, more radical, saying that we're just going to try and find our own homeland again since this is the fourth bloody time, and the rest of them thinking about state-proofing their life for when the collapse might come. But this was a minority opinion. The vast majority of people vastly got on board with the project of South Africa. From the 90s until the 2010s, the race laws were abolished, along with the international sanctions, and the economy grew. The Vuvuzela made its debut, and power transitioned from a Xhosa to a Xhosa to a Xhosa to a Zulu. But in South Africa, this is when things started to go wrong. The economy stalled for 15 years straight, the race laws were replaced with black economic empowerment.
Yep. They view it as payback. But I simply view it as them being ungrateful.
Discriminating against the white minority. Hell, you can't even open a business without having to fill in your race. Threats.
Yeah, and you are required to... there is no such thing as freedom of association for whites in South Africa. If you are running a business, you are required. You are required to have black employees. Again, this is what they're trying to do in America, people. They're already living through this progressive hellhole in South Africa. Basically, they reversed apartheid at this point. Look at the average IQ of the Zulu, and then it quickly makes sense why it fell apart. Yep. IQ is also very much a thing, too. We all know this. We're all chuds in here. IQ and race. Let's just say there's a reason why there hasn't been any official quote-unquote study on this matter, because if that were to take place, because we live under the liberal world order where we have such presuppositions of egalitarianism, equality, liberty, whatever else, can't be done because it goes against the established, essentially religious order of the Western world. You just can't. You can't do that study. Why? Bullshit. That's why. It's, it's just bullshit that you can't do this kind of study, but we all know the answer. We all know exactly how that's gonna look.
Of seizing their land without compensation increased, corruption reached comical levels.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
It do be like that, Mr. Stancil.
Corruption is bad when I'm not involved. Holy shit, dude. You cannot... He actually said this with a straight face. Wow. Yeah, South Africa's government is notoriously corrupt these days. I wonder why.
Yes. But if I'm part of that corruption, I'll defend it.
The Zulu resigned in a corruption scandal and was followed by a vendor. The Zulu vote rallied behind their own man, the Afrikaners voting for their own party, the English and Coloureds rallying behind a liberal party, and the Party for Africans demanding whites be slaughtered received 10% in the polls, with race war rhetoric becoming a real problem for South Africa's reputation.
Gee whiz, where are we seeing this now?
White man, you must die like a slave. White man, you must die like a slave.
And the people who built the country are being told to die. How crazy is that? And where else do you see this in the Western world? Hi, Rhodesia was a police state, very much into surveillance and military glorification. Besides, the Rhodesian regime carried forced military conscription. Well, grand design, a lot of countries do forced military conscription. As for the Rhodesian state, like, do you know why it was a police state? Do you understand what was happening in Rhodesia at the time? As to why things had to be a surveillance state? Do you know why? Do you know what was happening? And then don't forget, like, modern Zimbabwe also kind of is also very authoritarian in that regard too.
Shoot to kill.
Here's the song I was talking about at the start of the stream.
It's also something Nelson Mandela used to do, but was largely ignored outside of the country.
A fun fact, this guy on the right is, Yeah, I think the song kind of speaks for itself, yeah. Callum, I know, Callum, I beat you to the punch, but this was necessary.
That first guy, Julius Malema.
Fun fact, I remember, I think it was like the ANC on Twitter that was like, oh, please do not make fun of our Jewish donors. Yeah, they sure hate white people, huh? But then again, I don't consider Jews to be white, so hey, at least they're at least fuck, I lost my train of thought. Others doing evil towards own people is not justification for them to do it. Conscription is slavery, but worse since you're out there being made to kill. That's the opposite of freeing white people. Yeah, again, I don't deny that, but I'm also trying to tell you that it's like this is a thing in other parts of the world. Like, this is, like, when you turn 18 in Turkey or Greece, it's like you are required to basically serve in the military. I agree, I don't like it. But it is reality. It is the reality of the situation. And again, I don't think slavery is a good thing. Yes, I could agree with you that conscription is can be argued as a form of slavery, and I would probably agree with you. It's like, especially if the country's going down the shitter. But regarding Rhodesia, the white minority are just as nationalistic as the Afrikaners. So I wouldn't be surprised if many of those people did actually want to die for their country.
Really interesting character. The funniest story I heard was when he was in court on I believe it was a firearms charge. He was waiting for the verdict, and so he pulls out this bottle and begins drinking. And it was pointed out that this was a luck potion, because a lot of people in Southern Africa believe in magic. This dude was drinking a luck potion from Skyrim to get the verdict he wanted. Wow. Beautiful place. The country also, ended up with more race laws than during apartheid, and then became the crime capital of the region. When I was in Zimbabwe, people would boast about, at least we're not in South Africa. That place is crazy, with the amount of murders and crime going on. And so...
Remember, in South Africa, today, the murder rate is 42 per 100,000 people.
That being the situation of things, I decided to go and pay a visit. The first stop was to Johannesburg, which upon arrival isn't the worst, but is the most annoying airport on Earth, with taxi scammers everywhere in the airports, so you can try and use Uber, but it's regulated to only pick up in a car park a decent walk away, in sweltering heat where the signal doesn't work. I decided to stay in an Airbnb in an Afrikaner neighborhood. It was previously named after Hendrik Look, I'm sorry about the Afrikaner words. Same with the Xhosa. I can't do that noise to make Xhosa. Look, my English tongue just doesn't do those things, so please forgive. Hendrik was the father of apartheid and was assassinated by a Greek communist. Post-apartheid.
A Greek communist, huh? Wow, okay, that... I don't think I caught that the first time on watching this video. I gotta be honest here, fellas. I gotta be honest. Wow. Perhaps I should talk about Greece one of these days. I mean, I am Greek Orthodox. I'm not Greek by blood, but I am Greek Orthodox. I'd love to get some other, Greek Orthodox people who are a bit more knowledgeable on the country to join me on that. It's like maybe they'll have some insights that I just don't have because I'm not living in Greece. I'm in America.
Apartheid, the residents were forced to rename the neighborhood. Now, this is actually Pretoria rather than Johannesburg, which is just slightly north of Johannesburg, and thanks to the urban sprawl, both cities are basically almost one. The reason I picked this was that the locals said that this area I was far less likely to get robbed or killed. But even so, every single home or business here is in a cage. The houses are fitted with large metal fences and gates with razor and electric wire, cameras, and they all signed up to an armed response in case of home invasion. It quickly became apparent that...
I think if things don't radically lurch right in America, we will be living... The place that I'm living at right now will probably have a lot of fences, barbed wire, cameras everywhere. It's like, oh boy. Because again, theft is quite common. At least this stuff kind of deters people from entering, and and the walls aren't exactly easily scalable, you know?
This is what life is in South Africa. Living in a golden cage. So I just wanted to film something. Which is I booked.
And a golden cage is still a cage. Not exactly somewhere I'd want to be living. The fact that, you know, I like to go, you know, fun fact about myself is I like to go on walks around my neighborhood. You know, after I go to the gym, it's nice to kind of cool down a little bit. I cannot do that here. It is genuinely not a good idea to be walking around, outside of your little golden cage and your car, which you got to keep your car on lockdown at all fucking times.
To Airbnb. It was stupidly cheap, but here's what an Airbnb looks like in South Africa. It comes with a big old fence. And that is mandatory for safety in this country.
Julius Malema is living in a special reality. He doesn't want to genocide, but thinks LARPing as a race supremacist is honoring the anti-apartheid activists' memory. Well, the thing is, the anti-apartheid people, again, their whole, from their deeds, you can make the accurate determination. You can make the accurate judgment that they just want to kill whitey. And then, also, I find that hard to believe. I like to look at people's actions, not their words. Because the words of a politician tend to be bullshit through and through. And so whenever I hear he says, "Oh no, I don't want to kill the Boer. I don't want to kill the white farmer. Oh no," it's like, and then I see him sing "Kill the Boer" on stage and continue and have a bunch of people kill the Boer. In reality, you could see how I don't exactly think he's LARPing. I think he's very serious about this. I think he's dead set on trying to get rid of as many Afrikaners as possible. You might think that's extreme of me to say, but I see it for what it is. He actually says only like singing the Kill the Boer song as a cult. Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware that it's a fiction. I'm aware that it's a fictional song. But but it is a proven fact that out of all forms of entertainment, music really lingers in our minds the most. So when you have a bunch of people, your own fucking president is singing about killing the Boer, you don't think that's not going to influence people?
No matter what.
And I agree, Raisin, the blades on the fence should be bigger.
Staying. But it's starting to make me a little bit depressed because you've got this aspect of life where you're going from fortress to fortress, essentially. Every business, every building, every house is a fortress in its own right. So you live in your little fortress, your little compound. You get in your car with a driver or one of your family members, and you drive at speed to the next fortress, and you hang out there.
Rex's questions.
That means you're never
LARP
really
claim.
able to just walk around. You're never able to just relax and walk to the shops with your family. Everything's driving, which to Americans might feel like nothing new, but for British...
Yeah, South Africa does have electrical grid problems. We will... Okay. Is everything good? Is everything looking good? I am so sorry about that. I was not expecting this to happen. I'm just gonna share the link again. What a mess. I am so sorry about that, guys. 10 to 4 on this. Oh, right. OBS. I have to see OBS. Audio. Okay. That's good. Yeah, I was just seeing. Yeah, we're back. We're back, Rexus. We're back. Yeah, we're so back. We're so back. Okay. We can now get back to the video. If that... So I'm gonna go back just a little bit. Here should be good. Okay. I pray that the power is not gonna be going out anytime soon again. I'm just, sorry, I forgot to keep Discord open. Okay, that should be good. Okay, I think we could get back to the video now. Sorry about that. Yep. Thank you for coming back, Grand. Thank you. I'm glad that everybody was able to make their way back. Sorry about the power outage. It's out of my control. Video is silent. Oh, video is silent. Okay. Thank you, man. There we go. There we go. It should be good now. I thought you were banned. That would be hilarious. Here, we'll go back again. Sorry. There we go. Fixed it. I was just scrambling to get everything back in order.
Almost every building, every house is
a Fed.
Sound right.
Oh wait.
So you live in your little fortress,
settings.
your little compound.
Okay, that's fine.
You get in your car with a driver or
okay.
One of your family members.
We're back.
And you drive at speed to the next fortress. And you hang out there. That means you're never really able to just walk around. You're never able to just relax and walk to the shops with your family. Everything's driving. Which I know to Americans might feel like nothing new, but for British people, I'm used to walking to the shops and getting food or dish.
I know for me as an American, right? It's like I'm pretty used to driving to like the grocery store, but I also like that it's like, okay, you drive to the stores, right? But then you have for the most part, you have a neighborhood to get back to if you're living in the suburbs. Do you have a priest vest on your plant character? It is inspired by the Hyero monks, but I didn't want to go exclusive. I didn't want to like literally copy the design, like that specific design, because that means something in the Orthodox Church, like what's on the Hierophant, on the the Hierophant, right? I think that's Hieromonk. There we go, Hieromonk. Sorry. It is rather eclectic. That's why I like it. But I wanted to kind of evoke a something similar, but it's not the same thing. But I'm also a big fan of like Guilty Gear character design, so it's kind of worked out at the end.
Stuff for dinner or whatever. And this is like living in a cage. So sitting here doom scrolling. And,
hey,
these are the adverts I get here.
Don't become the collateral damage of civil unrest, strikes, and riot.
Listen to that line again.
Adverts I get here.
Don't become the collateral damage of civil unrest.
You will never see American advertisements, like well-produced advertisements in America, Canada, even in the UK, as shit as that country is becoming. You will not hear that line in a overly produced commercial such as this.
Strikes and riot.
Like, that should tell you something about the state of the country if this is the state of its advertising. South Africans got civil civil unrest and riots against Nigeria against Nigerian nationals. Yep, that's correct. That is true. That is true. Who, what, where, when, and why? Yeah, just got back. You just got back from work, huh, Enoch?
One word can rewrite your story. Sasria. As the only company in South Africa that insures you against civil unrest, Sasria ensures that when things go bad, Sasria makes...
I remember watching this for the first time. I had my mouths to the floor. My mouths were on the floor when I was first watching this. I was just like, no fucking way. I knew things were bad. I didn't know that things were this bad. That's crazy. Like, genuinely, that is so alien to me as an American. I'm just like, yeah, there was the Summer of Love. That was very bad. That was very bad. But there was insurance. There was insurance that, did repair the damages. People did calm down eventually. There were little bits and pieces of the, little remnants of the Summer of Love, but for the most part, they are not like South Africa in regards to how frequent and how often it occurs. And yes, I agree, Grand Design. We probably will need such insurance. I would say if we don't drastically correct ourselves, 2 decades from now, we're probably gonna have something like Sasria.
Good.
It's also tiresome. First night, I made friends with the owners of the Airbnb, and we headed out to a South African chain restaurant, Spur, which uses an American Indian as its logo, and was founded by a Jewish immigrant from Nazi Germany. Food here, very cheap, very good. Do recommend. But they do have this annoying habit of wishing happy birthday to everyone who's having their birthday in the place, which is seemingly everyone in the damn place, because it's every 5 minutes.
Surprisingly, that's actually not the most evil thing I could think of a Jew doing. Is founding a steak restaurant. That seems pretty mild.
Anywho, the next day I decided I would head to the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg to get...
Oh boy.
...the education. And so I got an Uber, and the Uber that was taking me there was a lovely lady, and we got chatting about the crime problem. She mentioned that she had been robbed. They came to her house with guns, shot her son, stole their electronics. And so, because the electronics have tags in them that tell you where they are, she went to the police and said, hey, here's the exact location of my stuff. Can you please go and get it? And the South African police said, no. They didn't even bother. She says, yeah, they came to my...
That should really tell you something about how bad the crime problem is in South Africa. That should really tell you something. The fact that they... Wow, listening to this again, I'm still just shocked because I'm used to as an American, I am very used to the idea that, it might take the police some time, but they're not going to outright tell you no. They might be polite and say, I'm sorry, we can't do this right. We can't do this right now. But they're not just going to say, no, I'm not going to get your stuff back. That just doesn't happen in America. But again, 20 years down the line, that could very much be the case. Already, a lot of big city police departments, they already don't give a shit about a lot of crime. Even especially some of the violent ones.
My house, they stole the laptops and phones off the entire family. They shot my son, threatened to murder all of us. So I started asking her, well, who's doing this? Who are the people, who are the criminals? Are they Zulus? Are they Ndabilis? Are they Vendis? Are they Xhosa? Or what's the ethnic makeup of these people? She thinks about it for a while. She goes, they're all black. All types of black. But they're all blacks, all of them. And never any whites. I'm like, oh, no whites? No, you never seen any Afrikaner or English? Even the poor whites? Because we've seen poor whites by the side of the road. So I said, what about the poor whites? Do they ever do this? She says, I've never seen a criminal white, not even the poor ones. I said, okay.
That should fucking tell you something. And like, I know in America, because it's still majority white, it's like, yeah, you'll still see, you know, like poor whites, even, you know, not poor whites, you know, do some horrific shit. Just obviously not at the same frequency as minority demographics will. I'm sure those crime statistics have been discussed to death at this point. But they exist for a reason. Why are my ears so wiggly today? I don't know, Raisin. I don't know. It's just they kind of go with my eyes, and I've just been blinking a lot too.
Okay. So why do you think these black guys are doing the crime? Why do you think they robbed you, took your stuff? Why do you think they shot your son? And she says, well, I think maybe because they're poor.
I won't lie, I think there's something racial to all this. Again, we could look back at the history of the country, and we could actually definitely make some inferences there, and just what is. We could also look at what's being taught as well. Even if it's not in school, and I've seen those South African shanty towns, they oh boy. They are somewhat nicer looking than India, though. I could give them some credit in that regard.
Upon arrival in the Apartheid Museum...
You know what, just give me a minute, I'm gonna grab another drink. But yes, Rexus, you are also correct. Okie dokie, I am back. Damn it, Enoch, come on.
There is a huge wall protecting it.
I got the rest of my bottle of rum here.
And then security checks before buying a ticket. So this is the Apartheid Museum. And your ticket has randomly classified you as either white or non-white. You use the museum entrance indicated on the ticket.
That'll get me through the rest of the night. What the hell? The Indian going through the white entrance? Weird. For a museum, this is really dreary. Then again, it being constructed by communists and looking oppressive and dreary doesn't really surprise me much.
Right, so you're meant to be separated
like
from your family and put into different cages there. Doesn't really work when you're on your own.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I was watching this the first time. It's like, it feels like you're in a prison. Like, and because of that, I know what they're trying to say here. I know what they're trying to say here in trying to make you feel like a prisoner. It also doesn't help that Callum is filming this on a rainy day, but I mean, hey, that's just the weather. But holy shit. These communist motherfuckers really think us being left to our own devices, having our own homelands, is a prison. Wait, really, Enoch? Gandhi was for apartheid? That genuinely surprises me. I didn't think he'd be the type to ever admit something like that, knowing the nonsense he preached.
But interesting idea. This here is the fence. So this is the fence separating the museum from Johannesburg. Taking photographs inside the museum is prohibited. Great. I love when a museum really wants to tell a story to the public, so they ban documentation of that story. The museum then...
I wonder why they do that. Almost like, I think they don't want people to scrutinize the museum and then share their scrutinizing on the internet, and other people might agree with it. I think that's the reason why they have that in there.
Explains that the Johannesburg Pretoria area was previously museum.
Let's read that. It's scrolled by. Segregation was built on migrant labor. Segregation confined African ownership of the land and other rights to the African reserves defined by the 1913 Land Act. However, industries in the cities required large amounts of cheap labor in order to survive and prosper. Why is this all written in English? Shouldn't all this stuff be in Afrikaans? That's my first thought. Yeah, it's a small but not known fact. He praised the government back then and called the blacks animals. Holy shit. Damn, Gandhi. Rather rude. I knew about it. He was also pro-painter. Oh, that is very interesting, Rexus. That is very interesting. But I see, it was in his younger days. I guess they want to encourage tourists to see the fruits of diversity and think that it's a good thing. The Witwatersrand's gold mine, I probably butchered that. Gold mines were the main employers of migrant workers. 200,000 in 1920 and 300,000 10 years later. Without this endless supply of cheap labor, gold mining would have been squeezed into extinction by the expense of extracting low-grade ore on the one side and the internationally fixed price of gold on the other. Migrant laborers were obliged to take out contracts from 6 to 18 months at the end, which they were... Interestingly enough, that I don't see any citation things on there. Museums will have citations for their arguments. Man, the stuff I never learned in history. Wonder who wrote my textbooks. Well, gee whiz, Gamma, I wonder who wrote your textbooks. I wonder. But even for propaganda museums, they will direct you to sources that will verify their claims. I don't see anything here for further research if you have any doubts or questions. They just kind of expect you to accept all this as fact. This arrangement had two advantages for the architects of the migrant labor system. It meant that the single migrant workers were temporary residents in the town. Oh, again, they're trying to paint the... So, okay. Basically... Actually, let me finish reading this before I get to my point. It also meant that the migrant families lived off the land while the migrant was working in town. This allowed mine owners to pay low wages to migrants to earn a profit. Kind of sounds like what's going on in America today, with a bunch of cheap foreign labor and H-1Bs. I am a firm believer that H-1B, even though they are getting paid, it's a form of wage slavery. And it also stifles, people like myself. I am working in a field that is absolutely impacted by the influx of H-1Bs. And so it does affect me, and it does prevent me from actually getting jobs that I should be able to get with the qualifications I have. But the thing is, you have to, don't forget who also were some of the landlords at the time. I already played the button for then, I don't need to again. After the South African War in 1902, mine owners cut migrant wages in half. In response, migrants refused to offer themselves for work. Black resistance to low... Okay. I also picked up on this too. It's like, so who are the migrant laborers? Did you kind of answer it with with the blacks? Because if you're answering with the blacks, who technically were always there, and then it says 70,000 Chinese. Okay, so do people not know what the Chinese workers did? It was kind of like how when they were working on the railways in America, that they sent a good portion of the money back to their families in China. And that kind of happened. I can take a guess and assume that the same thing happened in South Africa, because the railways that were being worked on in the 1800s is not that far away from 1902 in terms of the timeline. I heard a stat like 88% of jobs since 20. Yes. That is a very true statistic, Gamma. That is a very true statistic. I've seen it myself too, and I fucking hate it. Black resistance to low wages was broken by the importation of 70,000 Chinese indentured laborers in 1907. Yeah, the railways in America, I think, were also built by indentured Chinese servants. And the Irish were actually mad about it, rightfully so. That was their job, was building the railways, and just to learn that Chinese are taking their opportunities. You see, because the Irish were also not the original founding stock of America, and again, I say this as somebody who is part Irish. It's like, yeah, that they honestly didn't mind doing the rail work jobs, as hard as it was, aching as it was. It's like, it was work, and they could provide their families. To see that they can't help their own in getting jobs to help the nation, much as they didn't really want to do them, it pissed them off, and rightfully so. Don't think any of my ancestors were involved, though.
Johannesburg, Pretoria area was previously white, using white labor in the mines until the landlords imported African workers, leading to it becoming minority white, culminating in the...
Wow, shocking. Kind of like what Jews do today. They, in the context of South Africa, the landlords that decided to, hey, we're just gonna expedite the process, damn the results, and take away people's jobs for profit. Yeah, this is a reason why I'm a feudalist. Economically speaking, this is a reason why I'm a feudalist. Governmentally speaking, I am a monarchist. This doesn't happen in feudalism. This drive to just replace the nation's workers with foreigners, that's not a thing in feudalism. This incessant drive for profit above the prosperity of the nation and its citizens is not a thing in feudalism. But the peasants, the serfs had land, they were able to have families, and continue helping improving the state. Capitalism kind of fucks up with that. Communism also fucks up with that.
The Rand riots. The bit about the Communist Party of South Africa organizing the rebellion.
Yeah, it is bankers versus tech giants, and wouldn't you know, they're two wings on the same hook-nosed bird.
With the Workers of the World Unite for a White South Africa wasn't mentioned. The next section of the museum is just the Afrikaner Day of the Vow, followed by Hendrik explaining his reasoning for apartheid.
I don't even want to think in terms of only the safety.
Let me guess. Stuff that's taken, it's not the full speech and it's taken out of context to try to propagandize foreign viewers.
This generation, I must think in terms of the generations to come. It is easy for us to make various sacrifices, to give way bit by bit, knowing that we will lose out in 10 or 20 years' time. But why worry by when we will be there? But we will know. The younger ones amongst us, our bigger children, and they must have grandchildren, they too. Are we thinking only of ourselves? They are due to think of a nation growing for the future. My decision is for the future. Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily, and perhaps much better, be described as a policy of good neighborliness, accepting that there are differences between people.
Oh boy, I wonder why America and Russia would have a problem with that. You know, the Soviets, I mean. I shouldn't say Russia, I should say the Soviets. I wonder why the Soviets would have an issue with that. I wonder why America would have an issue with that. All because this guy understands that we are not equal. That's why. He understands that we are not equal. The world is a hill at the bottom of a pit. Everyone is pushing each other down to get higher on that hill, but they will never get out. They never get out. Most are satisfied with relative attitude. Yep, altitude. I thought you said attitude. I can't read, I guess. With a relative altitude. Good point, Raisin.
These differences exist, and you have to acknowledge them. At the same time, you can live together, aid one another, but that it can best be done.
That is also true. You don't all, again, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, my favorite verses in the Bible. There is a time for war, there is a time for peace. I forget which specific verse that was in, but that is absolutely an important thing to note. There is a time for war, and there is a time for peace.
When you act as good neighbors always do.
Pictures of black townships living in poverty, which they still live in today, and moving on to the Communist Party.
And the thing is, right, like I said earlier in the stream, part of apartheid, it was a little bit of an experiment to see how the different races would develop their own nations. And wouldn't you know, the people who built the nation, the Afrikaners, who built the infrastructure, are far more apt to take care of, develop, and maintain it. I wonder what happened. I wonder how South Africa was able to develop a nuclear program. And yes, the answer is racial-based. Sorry, I am a deep thinker, not always a clear one. I don't mean... No. Raisin, I understand what you're saying from your previous comment. Dude, I understand. Don't think of my response as like one of confusion. People are not having intelligence. It largely okay. Slow down, Kreemsicle. People are not having intelligence issues in South Africa. There's white and black slums. Black elite have deep ties with white upper class and upper middle class. Well, yeah, there's a lot of corruption involved in the South African government. Like, I don't deny that. But a lot of the development of infrastructure, right? Because what happened when apartheid got abolished, like the ANC did not develop any sort of programs that would actually teach the capable, intelligent blacks of South Africa how to maintain the infrastructure. That just didn't happen. Like, and you'll see later on in the documentary when Callum starts exploring the country, it's just like the infrastructure is just collapsing. Like you just can't, like, you can't tell me that it's like, oh, they tried, because they didn't. Because what Mandela did, like, again, he took things, he did things way too quickly, and the people who were, you could say disenfranchised, I guess to follow in your framing, they were not taught any of this stuff. Black economic empowerment law built a network of whites who got privileged to benefit along black elite, distributing cash and state power. Hey, I also don't deny that. Again, it goes back to, what I said and what Callum said about government corruption. Of course there's going to be white people, maybe not white people, we could say Jews, who are involved in that and continue to perpetuate the corruption. Jews are very good at that. And again, Jews are not white. I believe what I heard is that African tribes have so much infighting that when one tribe gets into power, they have too much corruption for their own tribe instead of what's best for the nation. That is also true, Gamma. That is also true. Remember that it's the black South Africans. They are not like this lumped up ethno-mass. They come from their own different tribes, and those tribes have their own different histories, favoritism, rivalries, all that is not so easily forgotten via good infrastructure and education. But I also don't completely deny that there probably are some white people who have some economic privilege and are just fucking up the nation for their own. It is kind of like how things are in America. The boomer whites sold out their own. They sold out their own people. All because they're greedy, hedonistic motherfuckers. I mean, hey, there's a reason why Mossad has so much blackmail on our politicians.
Parties beginning of the People's War against the state of South Africa to replace...
Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Only works if they can learn. And I would add to that reason, if they have the capacity to learn. You have a way with words, I love it. Well, thank you, Gamma. Look at Nambia. I can assume that a similar situation is happening in Nambia. The way that I would describe Africa, like kind of an outsider looking in, a lot of societies have either just collapsed or are on the verge of collapse. That includes a country like Egypt. I mean, Egypt is, regarding modern day Egypt, a lot of it is like, it is on the, and I think there's been some fights that already have broken out in regards to like possible regime change. I don't know if my government is involved in any of this. I wouldn't be surprised if they are, but a lot of Egyptians are not fans of the current government. And then on the spiritual end, yeah, in Egypt, or Nambia, or Namibia. Sorry, I didn't see the I in there. I'm sorry. I thought it was Nambia though. Anyways, yeah, I could possibly see that. I just have to do some more research into the country. You raised a good point. I just got to do some more research into it.
Place the apartheid government.
But yeah, a lot of places in Africa are collapsing or on the verge of collapse. I could say the same thing. I could say the same thing about the Middle East too. Like even the more developed places like Iran, even Israel. Israel's a very developed country, but it too will not last forever, and I pray that that particular government does not last forever. Last thing we need is a country that has access to thousands of nukes. Look up the Samson option if you haven't. They have a significant white population compared to other African countries. Okay, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that sometime. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it was also on the verge of collapse.
Including one room filled with nooses meant to symbolize political executions of the apartheid government.
It's a former part. Oh, okay. It's a former part of the South African state.
To demonstrate it, they use a specific case, and the case is of a man who bombed civilians, including women and children. They then do a pretty good
Wow, what a good example.
Job of detailing the successes of the People's War in bringing the violence to every part of South Africa, which eroded the state's authority, the rise and fall of the Afrikaners with Nazi sympathies to hold on to their system of government, as negotiations, ended with a comically large ballot for the elections, ultimately leading to the rise of Nelson Mandela. There is an entire section glorifying Mandela, and then it ends with a modern South African flag, which has clearly had rocks thrown at it by visitors. This is the end. You can hear the national anthem in the background, and then you can see a flag here. But I hope the camera's picking up. You can see where people have thrown rocks to the flag.
That's honestly not so butso, man.
Equality, responsibility, democracy.
Yeah.
Diversity, respect, reconciliation, and yet people are...
Disgusting. Oof.
Halfway through this thing as well, the fire alarm went off in the museum, and nobody there could figure out how to turn it off. Honestly, it was pretty underwhelming. I was expecting some level of political education, but came away with nothing, except Trevor Noah's book. So I thought, well, I'll go and see more, because I've been following this account called Josie vs. Josie, which shows Google Street View images of Johannesburg from today and 10 years ago, and it demonstrates...
So even 10 years ago, because this is when a lot of this collapse started, like the infrastructure collapse started, and the crime started getting worse. 10 years ago. Wow. I even have a screenshot for this thumbnail in, from this page. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how to describe it personally. It's like, how can people let things go to shit this much?
Demonstrates the de-developing nature of South Africa.
Without getting absurdly into race talk. I've done quite a bit of that already.
And before anyone mentions apartheid being the source of these things, apartheid ended 2 decades before these images.
Yes.
And so this generation living in this time period have only ever known ANC rule.
We were launching that new breathalyzer which will be able to test and tell if there is blood in your alcohol within 10 minutes rather than to wait for months for blood tests to show how much blood you have.
As the adage says, you give a poor man a fish and you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, you give him, and
no. He can't. So, I remember, I keep pausing. I want to just kind of let this play out for a little bit, because it's been like 2 hours already, and we're not even at the 1 hour mark. But basically, my friend Underworld Fox, right? He lives in South Africa. He sent something in his server, which I'm part of a South African politician with his pants down, dick and balls showing. And I remember watching that. I was just like, What the? This is not a serious country. Wow. And I don't think he got punished for it. I don't think he got punished.
These rich neighborhoods which were built up over generations, only for the property value to be completely destroyed by shantytowns moving in incredibly recently. And so I wanted to go and see a bunch of these things. I mean, what did South Africa have before dirt roads? Paved roads, apparently. Entire train stations disappearing, de-developing. Entire schools de-developing. But when I mentioned this to everyone I met, that I wanted to go to these places and asked if they'd come with me or if I could, contact someone to take me with me, every one of them said to me, look, if you go there on your own, as a British tourist, you're going to be robbed and killed.
Yep. So, fun fact, I said this early in the stream, but Callum has been to Zimbabwe, and he has been to some of the more poorer parts of the country, and even he felt safer in Zimbabwe than he does here.
Not might, you are going to be robbed and killed if you go to these places. So I contacted some Afrikaners who work in security about getting there, and unfortunately they were busy this time of year with the amount of crime going on.
Shocker.
So I couldn't go with them either. I thought about renting a car, but then found out that you don't know where's safe and where's not in a place like this. And it's the difference between staying alive and thinking everything's fine and certain death. So I thought, okay, fine, if it's going to be that dangerous for tourists, this place is screwed, so I'll go to Zululand. I'll travel out to Zululand and see that area. I was then informed that Zululand has the highest homicide rate in the country. See that area. I was then informed...
What the hell is this?
Wow. I wonder how China is doing in Africa. Do you know where the whole "it's all so tiresome" meme comes from, Gamma? Do you know where that comes from? I know where it comes from. I even know the context of it too.
On the Zululand.
But that is, look at this. This is nutso butso. So the context of it comes from a documentary of seeing how China is trying to develop Africa, doing its own little colonial project, and the employees that the Chinese companies have employed are so incompetent. They're so focused on trying to like pilfer as much as they can instead of actually doing a job. That the guy, I think he was like the head of the project. He was just like, it's all so tiresome, man. Well, he didn't say the man part, but he said it's all so tiresome. And oh boy, that is basically the mantra of black fatigue.
And has the highest homicide rate in the country, which is 22 times higher than Syria. So I spoke to a guy and said, okay, well, what do I need to do? And he recommended, well, here's a company.
I think is that Adieu Africa? I think that's what it's called. I've seen clips of it. I think I know what you're talking about.
Where you can hire a guy to drive you and he'll bring a weapon and he knows the area. He's South African. He'll know what's going on. So I contacted them, and for a 3-day trip into Zululand to go and see Blood River and Rorke's Drift and Isandlwana, it would have cost me $1,600. That doesn't include accommodation or food or anything. That's just the guy coming with me. And it just wasn't economical. Like, if I spend that kind of money, I'm not going to make it back from going to these places.
I gotta take a drink for that.
Which
alone.
means for a tourist, I don't know how you deal with that. And this isn't a joke either. Whilst I was there and then found out how expensive it was and decided not to, a couple from Devon were down there, and the female went missing, and they later found bits of her being used for witchcraft. Anywho, next day I decided, screw it, and I'll meet up with a mate. This being Ernst Van Zel from AfriForum. And Ernst is a mate because he previously helped me by taking me to see John Edmund for the Rhodesia video. And afterwards he told me about the Day of the Val and all this Afrikaner stuff because he comes from an Afrikaner civil rights organization. And I told him I'll come back and make a video about South Africa one day. So here I was. Post-apartheid, some Afrikaner organizations decided to state-proof their life, with AfriForum being a version of this. Many Afrikaner organizations failed to produce
Honestly, I hope that in the future that white Americans will be able to state-proof their lives. It's getting pretty insane, just all the anti-white racism that's just going on.
Results, but some, like his, managed to set up technical colleges like Soltech, the idea being that Afrikaners should be able to learn, well, different skills in their own language of Afrikaans.
Research just shows that you learn best in your mother tongue. Difficult concept. We create an opportunity here for young people to study in their mother.
Yes, that is also true. You do learn things better in your mother tongue. Like I learn things better in English than I would in like Japanese or Greek, for obvious reasons.
Let's say from us that 94.7% of our students find proper jobs within 6 months. 56% are appointed the very first day that he or she qualifies.
But Soltech is just one level of what they call state-proofing. They were also expecting the state to collapse on various other things, and so they have their own media, civil rights, and education, and some security setups.
We provide equipment such as bulletproof vests, and torches, radios, and establish those radio networks. We provide training from our side.
Smart thinking. It seems like there's some, there are some groups of white people that still have testosterone left in their bodies. The Afrikaners being one of them.
Guys, how to conduct patrols safely, and of course effectively and within the confines of the law.
And they want to expand into things like energy and fire services. In South Africa, quite often the water or the electricity just doesn't work. Ernst took me to one of the best neighborhoods in the city to show me the level of security that those guys have, which made the compounds in Afghanistan look humble. So we're in like a semi-middle class neighborhood, and you can see, like, even here, the whole thing's been turned into a fortress, people's houses. And then also you get piles of trash, which... Wow.
Ugh, even in somewhere like this upper class neighborhood, I don't like seeing that out there. That's like when I go to the big city, I'm just like, oh, I don't like seeing the trash, and I don't like seeing that everywhere. Yet nobody will do anything about it. Even the sanitation people who's that's their job. Same with the volunteers. That's their fucking job.
So I thought the area we were in was like ridiculously rich, having a look at it, but then this is, you're saying, middle class? Middle class. Okay.
Oh, middle class, I'm sorry.
The really rich people don't live with...
They live in security estates.
Yeah, they don't have fencing and stuff all over their walls. The whole estate is a fortress, and they don't have any problems as a result. So we're driving past this one here, and it looks like something from, I don't know, Afghanistan. The proper combine fortress. And Ernst was telling me the way it works is you drive up to the gate there, you say you have an appointment with someone, so you have to be invited.
Celtic manner.
They will take your number plate, they'll take your driving license, and then they'll call the person and check whether or not you're actually there to see them and they're aware of it.
Wow.
Like you're entering some kind of government institution, the level of security to keep you out, and these big high walls with what looks like electric fencing on there. And then presumably the guys at the front are also armed.
I'm looking forward to when my country has
So we're driving along,
this.
and my mate wants to show me something. As you can see here, perfectly normal road, nothing crazy going on. And apparently down this road here, as I'm about to show you, there was a sinkhole. Okay, then you filled the sinkhole in and you rebuild the road. Well, not in South Africa, apparently not. Apparently what you do here is you just put this up. Road closed, residents only. And how long ago was this?
This was 2 or 3 years ago.
So you can see a house just in the back. I don't know how well this camera's picking it up, but you can see that house has just been
Look at
destroyed.
that.
Danger, no entry, deep sinkhole. And that's English and Afrikaans there, right? And then they built this walkway over the damn thing.
Again, it's the same issues that America had. When you try to enfranchise a disenfranchised group, I'm just kind of using that framing just so people can understand what I'm saying, and not what I actually think. Excuse me. When that happens, things are not going to fix themselves instantaneously. You cannot just immediately enfranchise people. They need to be taught how to learn, how the country works. Especially how the infrastructure works.
God, yeah, you can see where it just falls off the earth. The earth is gone. The road should be here. And instead the road just ends.
They built a walkway across, like a bridge.
And it's been 2 years.
3 or 2 years, yeah.
2 or 3
My
years.
memory is a bit fuzzy, but it's about 3 or 2 years, yeah.
They still have the technology to build this, but they do not have the technology to build a road. My friend was just joking in the car that it's like 40k. They've lost the technology. Rebuilding such a thing. I mean, it was only known to some kind of ancient civilization that lived here once upon a time. But today...
yeah.
Who knows? Not us. So this here...
Yeah, this is also a very common sight in South Africa, is be aware of your own safety. Yeah, wow, thank you, sign. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that I'm in a crime-ridden shithole of a country.
Here is the South African solution to crime, which is that it's horrific, it's everywhere, and so what do? Do you deploy the police and the military and clamp down on it? No. You put up a sign. I know exactly what the sign is meant to do. I suppose it does inform you that you are probably going to get murdered and robbed here, but doesn't exactly stop the murder and robbing. And so we went to the local mall.
Yeah, again, they think a sign will stop this stuff if people just keep speeding at miles per hour. Criminals are rather adaptive people. They will find a way. There's the phrase, if there's a will, there's a way, exists for a reason.
Which is behind a high metal fence, and found a mixture of English and Afrikaner food, along with a small trip back to 90s England. So this here is interesting, especially for British viewers. I don't think Americans ever got this, but this is Wimpy Burger, which is something that used to exist in the 90s in England, and then I think went bust, and we all assumed it was dead. But no, somehow it's actually managed to survive, and it's down here in South Africa. So this is the Wimpy menu, which is still going after all these years. Like, I have no memory of this, but my parents' generation,
So they tell you.
vividly. When I told them there's a Wimpy in South Africa, they're like, you're kidding me. This is apparently the best stuff, so this is breakfast. The Manza Brekkie? Okay, basically just diner breakfast. Old burgers that I know nothing of. And then full meals. It's still alive, it's still there. It will never die. What the hell, man?
Eat some
I don't know if this is how in Scotland, but probably do. Jolly Jammers?
Yeah.
Not Jammy Dodgers.
No,
Jolly Jammers. Bizarro, England. So this is just all traditional British biscuits here. Like pink wafers and such. Strawberry wafer, okay. I mean, you'd think it would be standard, but then I go places and I can't find it, and I'm so happy to see it. Woolworths Foods. 4 for 55. But that's like 4 quid.
Here's some Afrikaans names. But I showed you this time the Mrs. Ball's chutney.
Oh, Nando's. I remember when I was living back in my apartment, there was a Nando's. Good shit. I liked it a lot. It's a shame I never had some of the more spicier options there. I love spicy food, man. Yeah, obviously you could hear that's the non-white part of me talking. And no, I'm not Indian. I'm part Iranian. And I'm part Ashkenazi Jew. The spice talk is my Iranian side coming out.
Of course.
Bladjang is Afrikaans. Perske bladjang. Peach chutney.
But who can forget Mrs. Balls?
Yeah.
Wonderful lady. What is mother-in-law sauce?
It's usually a sauce that's pretty spicy.
Ooh.
It's just we call anything very spicy mother-in-law sauce, mother-in-law spice.
To get rid of the mother-in-law? To scare her away? Or
I think double meaning, yeah.
My beloved. You know, Americans still don't have this. And of course,
Brown
sauce. So this is something I love, is that sandwich culture made it over here. I can't tell you how annoying it is to go.
Yeah,
but
South Africans do have
sandwiches
quite the
in
sandwich
their sauce.
culture.
Yeah. Finland, Sweden, Germany, but I don't know what's wrong with them. Someone seems to have not explained to them what a sandwich is. They've got the concept, but the fillings.
Not the essence.
Yeah, the fillings in English-speaking countries I find make sense. Corned beef and mustard, roast chicken and mayo, egg mayo. Yeah, ham and cheese, all that stuff.
The starting skins that you start your game with are like these are the starting Pokemon.
I'm not going to pause much here. There's no real reason to pause here. I can just kind of talk over them.
And watercress. Yeah. I was like, why?
Yeah.
This is like Charizard, Bulbasaur.
It do be like that.
The original sandwich meal deal.
I've also had things to drink.
I was hoping to see it because I did see. There we are. Yeah, this is the Afrikaans flavor though.
Yes, that's just bigger. Those are comically small.
Cinnamon sugar
pancakes.
Yeah. But just the idea you have pancakes on the go at all.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is hilarious to me.
Just might need them.
I know I said I wouldn't be pausing here, but I do find it interesting. This is something I'm a big fan of with Callum's documentaries in particular. He also likes to show off just, the day-to-day stuff too. That way it's like you're not just inundated with like doom and gloom. I saw it was the same thing with in Zimbabwe, same thing in all his other ones. You get to see just the day-to-day.
Barbecue chicken pancakes.
And a Cape Malay chicken curry.
And then
it's a very prominent flavour.
Okay. So this is the Malaysian influence.
Yes.
So we got ginger beer.
Oh.
Rye sauce.
So you got your chicken. And in America this would be time for barbecue sauce, but you guys call barbecues brats. Yes. And they are different.
But braai is something you do on open wood, and it's not a barbecue where you just like roast some weenies over the fire. It's like you have to.
It's a proper event.
You also don't do it alone generally. It's a social thing. You have to be inviting either family or friends to share it with.
Okay.
It's that typical, almost that old European idea of the feast, of bringing people together to eat as much as they want. Oh yes.
I've just noticed. What the hell, man?
Yeah. That's the traditional sausage. So you braai this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an Afrikaner thing where you can see there. It's a big circle.
That is one big sausage.
Very, very typical Afrikaner. It's the most.
Yeah, take that, clip that, and take that out of context. That'd be hilarious.
Probably the most typical thing you braai. What a
sosti. Sosti?
Where?
This one? I don't know how you say that.
Society.
Society.
Yeah, it's also Afrikaans. We'll stop after this at just a generic grocery store that I usually go to.
Okay.
For more generic South African brands. And this is what Woolworths does. It takes something generic and it gives it like a. My passion is graphic design packaging, and then people pay 20% for 50% more.
Okay.
That's literally the grip. And it works. Sorry. It works fantastically.
But then you guys have Cadbury as well.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I don't know why the bars are so bloody small. What's that about?
Shrinkflation.
That is ridiculous.
So this is what they used to be like.
Damn, shrinkflation has even affected South Africa too. Pete Hegseth's little cruise on the Strait of Hormuz, it's probably affected a lot more than I thought it would.
You buy a chocolate bar for that price, was this, but now this is like a ridiculously big jumbo
gotta let it play out a little bit.
When I was growing up, this was a chocolate bar.
Yeah, because this is like £1.20. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best not to pause.
A lot of things in South Africa are shrinking.
That's ridiculous. Wow. Yeah, I'd never pay £1.20 for that. That's just theft. But even the lint, wow, you can get like it's like tiny little things.
Yeah, for that price.
Jesus.
For £2.
You want to buy 3 Ferrero Rochers?
For £2.
Okay, desserts all normal. Desserts are normal.
Yeah.
And over here,
that's another Afrikaans word, frikadel, which is a meatball.
So chutney, beef and chutney frikadels instead of beef and chutney meatballs, but they're just meatballs.
Now, another Afrikaans word, vetkoek, which is just a fried piece of dough.
Vetkoek.
I don't know what you call them in England. You just take like a piece of regular dough and you fry it. It turns into like a little. You fill it with mince or whatever.
I don't even think we have it.
Okay.
The concept.
That's what that is.
Vetkoek.
Vetkoek is a.
Vetkoek. Some Afrikaans stuff right there.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. Like you get this weird combination of the two cultures just sitting next to each other.
Beef curry vetkoek. So it's two cultures colliding.
Not to mention then you've got the sausage rolls. Yeah, so basically,
Curry.
if you want
I
to
guess
relive
that's the thing
90s England,
Afrikaners have is curry.
you could
Love to try some
come to South
sometime.
Africa. And you can go to visit Woolies, you can go to Wimpy, and then you can come back and buy yourself a cottage pie. And the prices are basically the same as the 90s if you've got a British income. I mean, like England, they have a class system here for their grocery stores with Woolworths at the top here, and then Pick and Pay is more like normal. And we found a section here which is even more reminiscent of home, where you can buy chip butties, which are just ridiculous. Yeah, that is home. That is a weird version of home. You got fish and chips there, sausage and chips, sausage and mash, and then here you've got the hot dogs, which apparently are just eaten cold. You just buy that and eat it without it being heated up.
What the
And
fuck?
then over here,
Okay, that's fucking weird,
British
man. I
sausage
gotta be
rolls,
honest.
steak and kidney
Cold
pies.
hot dogs? Like, come on.
I'm so happy, man.
Come on.
I'm genuinely so happy.
You just feel at home.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Spoon and
I've just
Damien.
come from Syria.
What the fuck?
I've been eating nothing but Arab food. They've got mince pies for Christmas. Oh wow. Like the Chinese, you eat chicken.
And chicken necks.
Of course, why would you leave the necks, all the giblets?
Gizzards, hearts.
Wow.
Okay. Have you ever eaten a chicken foot?
No, it's not in our culture.
So is that from the
I see. It's
the
not
Indonesian
Afrikaans culture.
and the Malaysians?
No, this is mostly black South Africans.
Okay, because I was going to say it's more
makes
like a
sense,
Chinese thing
okay.
internationally.
No, black South Africans.
Oh, okay. Okie dokie.
Let me guess, witchcraft.
That's very nice.
You eat tripe. Okay.
The Afrikaans call it offal.
Oh, same in English.
Ah, nice. It's once again hearing the English word and we're like, oh, okay, offal.
Awful.
Yeah.
A pickled tongue.
Yes, that's very nice.
We got Bovril, we got Marmite, and then right at the bottom, we got golden syrup. Oh, it even still comes in the cans. I know Americans are going to be thinking maple syrup is like golden syrup, but no, you can see the viscosity of the maple syrup. It just pours out. Golden syrup is this British abomination where it barely turns, and once it starts turning, it doesn't stop. And because it comes in cans, you take this lid off, and you try and pour it, and it just goes forever. It gets all over your fingers. You guys have custard.
Yeah.
Ah.
South Africans love custard. Yeah, you had some custard last time you were here with the homemade pudding that my wife made.
Yeah, it was great.
That's the other thing, we don't call it dessert, we call it pudding, just like you.
Fish fingers. This is literally like Britain away from Britain. I can get all the crappy food I want that nobody else likes, but we love. South African sausage roll.
Wimpy.
It's a hell of a lot
Seriously,
more
what
meat.
kind of name is a Wimpy burger?
Like, it
I
tastes
gotta
way
be
meaty.
honest. Damn. Interesting take on a sausage sandwich.
Kind of fucking sausage roll, boys. God bless Bub Games. Man's still going. But soon enough, the big day arrived. The day of the vow, where the Afrikaners made their pledge to God that if they survived Blood River, they would build a church and remember that day. They were not lying, and they gather around the Voortrekker monument each year in a church service to remember.
Wow. I will also have to say the Dutch are, I gotta say, they're kind of funny looking in comparison to other whites. That's just my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of people who find Dutch women attractive. I think I fell for a Dutch woman or two before. Actually explains means a lot, at least for a personal thing in my life. I wish white people in my country were like this. I really wish that was the case.
Some things of note for me were the amount of songs sung that I could still recognize, as these people were originally Europeans, and we English have the same Christmas carols 400 years after our separation.
No translation!
For the event, men and women wear their ethnic dress, Afrikaner items are sold, such as their food, and also Dutch stroopwafels, various Afrikaner items such as flags and things with their heroes on. And at 12, precisely, the light shines through the roof perfectly on the empty grave for those who died building their homeland. The monument itself is absolutely huge, with statues of their women, who play a far more defensive role than in Anglo culture, a circle of wagons to protect it, and inside a beautiful display of art and marble, explaining the history without any words, and the Zulus betraying and then slaughtering the Afrikaners, which used to include the bashing of a baby to death, but this was removed for good taste. Outside, there were also...
Good taste, huh? Good taste. Yeah, this is... Even though it's still around, right? To bring this into some more current era politics stuff, yes, it's around, but you basically in a way, destroyed that part of the art. It loses a key piece of the message it's trying to tell. Kind of like a lot of things the anti-woke crowd complains about, but I think this is actually something far more worthy in terms of the arts to complain about than a line of dialogue being changed or some more pixels being added to a fictional woman's skirt.
Another series of murals that most Afrikaners there seemed somewhat ignorant of, including a mural to those who died in the South African Defence Force against the ANC, a mural for those Rhodesians who were murdered in Rhodesia by ZANU when they shot down a civilian airliner, and a mural to the heroic animals who served, including carrier pigeons, horses, used for their mobility.
Ayo, my kind is in here too.
Africa,
Horses.
And canines, who died defending their owners from the ANC or ZANU gunfire or explosives, all awarded medals for their bravery. Everyone I met here was incredibly welcoming. Like, even though I was English, they were happy to see me there and hoped I was having a good time. And you forget that you're in South Africa. I mean, I was leaving stuff lying around, like my phone and my cameras. And only upon leaving the place to walk out to get an Uber and walking past the armored vehicles and security checkpoint did I remember, this is an oasis from modern South Africa outside. Upon getting back in the Uber, looked at the guy's dashboard. He had a check engine light, and he had this...
I'll be right back. Just give me like a minute or two. I'm a horse orange Dusty. Not a girl, I'm also a guy. am back. Just needed to grab me a Surfside, because why not? Let's get back to the video. I gotta go, Gamma. Catch you later, then.
The South African solution of just putting some duct tape over it so you can't see it. Genius. At every stoplight, we would see poor blacks and whites trying to beg for money any way they could. And I should mention that the Day of the Vow is not without controversy. Domestically, after apartheid, it was called the Day of Reconciliation. It was renamed. And there were even warnings that it would be the last Day of the Vow ever, the first year afterwards, because attendance was so low. But instead, the exact opposite has happened. As the Afrikaners have reverted into their insular lives, it's become more meaningful to them. And also the date of the 16th of December.
Interesting.
Calling it Reconciliation Day, well, people were instructed on that day to do... Never explained to me. Because it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything to a Zulu, or a Xhosa, or a Venda, or even the English South Africans. It's not relevant. It's just another day. Whereas for Afrikaners, it symbolizes something in their history. So trying to change the name to something else just seemed dumb. I should mention at this point, I'd managed to catch some kind of pneumonia in Syria, and then immediately flown to South Africa. So I was really struggling. I had to push myself to go and get some footage of these things. And after the Day of the Vow, I sat back in this Airbnb and just thought, I can't be bothered. And the sickness was playing its part, but honestly, I didn't want to go and see more de-developed country, because I have that back in England. I didn't fly all this way just to see the same crap. And so I thought, screw this. As soon as I got better, I decided to get on a plane and go out into the middle of nowhere in South Africa. And so I went to Kimberley. Now, Kimberley was a mining town, so it's a South African town with African shanties and some big holes in the ground today. Interesting, but there is something way more interesting out in the desert. When I mentioned some people in South Africa predicted the collapse of the country, some Afrikaners were not kidding, so decided to buy up a bunch of worthless land in the middle of nowhere and build a town from scratch, just as their ancestors did, several times. This place is called Orania, and the gimmick is that it's a town only for Afrikaners. On YouTube, you will find slop videos claim,
"Whoa, the most racist town in all of America," and then when you look into it, it's like, oh, it's just, hey, if you're gonna be living here, you gotta be an Afrikaner and you gotta know Afrikaans.
Claiming that it's a whites-only town, but it's not. White English are not accepted. The town is an Afrikaner one only.
Yep, you cannot live here, in Orania permanently. But hey, I am very happy that the people of Orania are able to actually develop a thriving community. It took a lot of effort, a lot of blood, blood, sweat, and tears, to use the expression. It was mainly a lot of sweat, if I'm being honest. And they actually have managed to make a decent place to live. I wonder why.
The language you must learn to live there is not English, it's Afrikaans. Into the sea, from the ocean. From the ocean.
Welcome back, Raisin.
And the panel decides who must be let in, and you must be part of that mission to preserve the Afrikaner ethnic minority. But you can visit as a tourist. So I did. Afrikaner.
Let's see. Let's read the rules. But we'll read it in English because I speak English. You are entering the private premises of Vluittergeskraal Shareholding Ltd. owner, and the right of admission to these premises is reserved. Entering these premises is subjected to the rules and regulations of the owner. No crime will be tolerated. The owner or his proxy may question any suspicious persons and conduct a search of their person and property. Suspicious persons or activities should be reported to Orania Veiligheidsdienst. What? All roads within the village police. Okay. Damn, Dusty. Apparently you know Afrikaans. All All roads within these premises are private roads under the direct management and control of the owner. You enter these premises at your own risk. Any person entering these premises acknowledges and accepts that the owner of these premises, as well as its directors, proxies, employees, contractors, and agents, shall not be liable for any damage or loss suffered by any person arising from whatever cause and manner by whomsoever. The people of Iran... Oh, hey, Satanar. I saw you earlier. My apologies for not saying hi to you earlier. The people of Irania and their predecessors were some of the first to react to the destruction of peoples going on across the West now. Yeah, I support enclaving like this. And for those who don't know what enclaving is, it is basically you make you and some other people, mostly families, gather together, buy up some land, build it up, and you guys basically sustain it together. Orania is a notable instance of this, and it is one that I, just like Return to the Land, I am happy that it exists. I think I know because I'm an Orthodox Christian, there are some Orthodox enclaves that are starting. I should probably look into those. Veiligheidsdienste. It means security. Okay, gotcha. Obviously, Afrikaans is not my my native tongue, and I have a hard time pronouncing those words. I won't lie. They just don't come naturally to me. But yeah, it means security services. Okay, I see. But yeah, Return to the Land, Orania, and other enclaves like it, I fully support. It doesn't even have to be like, white only enclaves. I support them all. If you want to make a black only enclave, hey, I got no problems with that. If you want to make a Native American enclave, no problems with that. Asian, etc., etc., etc. Right? I got no problems with that.
Ethnic minority. But you can visit as a tourist. So I did. Booked a place. Some local Afrikaner guys expanding out here. And so he's built this, which is a little hut. This is to keep the bugs out. There's plenty of them. Could hear them all last night fighting each other. And this is what you get. My own oven. Tea. Basically a big kitchen. Bed. Lovely. And then this is the funniest part. Got a little bath here. There's like the old-timey baths. So it's a tin, which I just used.
Obviously, I think the actual houses in Orania are much nicer than this, but it's like, I mean, for what this is built of, hey, this ain't bad.
It's great.
This ain't bad. It's a house.
Duck. Nice little guy.
Damn. So you're telling me that white people managed to revitalize some useless fucking land and turn it into actually something decent? Shocker.
You got tuberculosis.
God, I'm ill. But yeah, this is a town built from scratch to escape modern South Africa and to build a place that works. And to give you a sense of how much it works.
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy in a restaurant last night, and his family used to be farmers, and they're Afrikaners, and they sold the farm to some old couple who wanted to live there. This place had bars, it had gates, alarm system, security, big dogs, blah blah blah. They smashed the window with a brick, shot them dead in his old bedroom. His bedroom got turned into a graveyard. Anywhere else in the country I need to be incredibly careful. Here, no. I just left the camera there, sitting on this little desk. There's no bars. We'll see a house over there, we'll see houses down there. There's no bars and anything.
There's water too!
Security here consists of that. There's no gate. There's no big...
And this place has a very hard on crime policy. So, hey, if you're a white Afrikaner, try to look into getting some property here and contribute. I wonder if there is a secret whiter than white race that just avoids detection from the rest of the world. This is probably the closest you're gonna get.
Big dogs. People have dogs. It's for fun. From what I've seen so far.
I don't like dogs. I don't like dogs.
And that's because the whole town is surrounded by private security, which the town pays for itself. And so if anyone outside who wants to bring that kind of culture in here isn't going to get very far. It's just like any actual civilized place where you just live. There's no car guards either. So in Johannesburg they have these things called car guards, and it's these guys in these vests who just look after the cars in the car park, so they're not broken into or
I bet
stolen.
they has flying cars and shit.
Never seen that before in my life. Never seen that concept. That you would need a car guard to protect the cars. And then last night I go to the restaurant and
sorry to hear
we
that,
don't have car
Dusty.
guards. And I'm like, oh wait, yeah, you don't. Wait, that's normal. Yeah, it's normal not to have car guards. That's weird. So, I mean, we'll see. But it seems so.
Even in the UK, I don't think they have that. The migrants are a little too stupid to figure that out. They prefer doing crime the old-fashioned way of graping and killing.
Far from what I'm finding out. The main interesting thing about this place is what's not here. So if you want to get around Orania and you don't have a friend, apparently this is something you can do, which you can rent these things.
What is that?
So it's electric powered. It works really weirdly.
Damn, Dusty.
That's the
I
brake.
see.
To go fast, you have to turn this like a motorbike. And because it's electric powered, it's not like a gas car where it ramps up, it's just immediately going.
Ah, it's a scooter.
That's fun. But yeah, this is what this is how I'm getting around in the Afrikaan-only town. And some Chinese-made nonsense. Like, I genuinely feel like I'm in China driving this thing. I've got no protection. There's not much in the way of traffic laws. Just stay on the certain side of the road. And don't crash, idiot. And I'm pretty sure I can't even drive this thing outside of Orania. Anywhere in South Africa, this thing's not allowed. But in Orania, because it's privately owned, hell yeah. True land of freedom. Bing chilling. I love this place. So you find a lot of, I don't know if to call it state propaganda because it's not a state, but, you know, propaganda to remind you of the values of the place, right? One of the lines that stands out to me the most is on self, so saying on self Orania here, which literally means by ourselves. Like, no one's gonna help you, you have to do it yourself. So if we want something, we're gonna have to build it. The town is divided by a main road, which is owned by the South African state.
Damn,
and it's beaten
this
to
is
crap,
so nice.
Whereas the town of Orania is quite nice.
It took years to build.
With one side being the hub with the cafe Milk and Honey, along with a local gas station and a grocery store, and an incredibly high...
Creamy toffee! Look how they spell cream! It's my name, like Kreemsicle! K-R-E-E-M! Creamy toffee! It's Kreemsicle toffee! No, the creamsicles are not used in making said toffee. They are my lovely pets.
high-quality fudge manufactory, along with some bars, farms, and a few other things. So if you're interested in buying a house in Orania, they do actually have a real estate agent here. I think it's a 2-bedroom for 1.3 million.
Damn, and they're actually building... And they're actually building properties here, too. That's awesome. Hey, congrats to Orania. You guys are doing wonderful things.
3-bedroom for 2.2 million. Yeah, so you're looking at, what, 2-3 million for...
I'm banning the creamy toffee right away. They're also reasonably priced. Yeah, even though the rand is like, how do I put it? A hyperinflated currency. It's like, yeah, still, you could actually reasonably live here.
House, I guess. On the other side of the town, you find the vast majority of the town's varied housing, the local bank, the school, a few more stores.
Wait. A bank that's not owned by Jews? What?
recreational areas, which brings us to the second gimmick, which is a big one. The town is not only Afrikaner only to live there. If you want anything done, if you want a road built, your house built, a maid to clean your house, a gardener, you have to do it yourself, or you have to hire an Afrikaner. And hiring an Afrikaner, you've got to pay them a decent wage, or they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You cannot use cheap black labor. You cannot use cheap foreign labor. You can only use what you have, which is your own group. This is no small thing. This is huge in South Africa.
We all have heard the statement, demographics is destiny. In Orania, we've added to that. And we've said, yes, that is true. But what?
That guy that you saw earlier, he's probably much younger than me. He's in much better shape than me. And if he were to start working out like tomorrow, he'd probably be lifting the same things I start, maybe, less than I'm lifting currently. But he'd be able to catch up to me very quickly. Yeah.
Dictates demographics. And for the most part, I would say labor dictates demographics.
Orania rejects the entire economic framework as a race to the lowest wages and lowest living standards possible for the working class, and instead mandates that work must be done by the domestic in-group population, which can only increase naturally, as a way of keeping compensation reasonably high, which until fairly recently is...
Even those kids digging out water for digging out the dirt for what I assume is going to be a pool. It's like, yeah, they're gonna actually be paid for doing that job. It turns out, even if you're gonna be, and this is how things used to work, even in a non-completely ethnic paradise like Orania, yeah, it turns out you still have to pay the people who are there a living wage. Immigration was a very, very slow process before the Hart-Celler Act was implemented. And, what a mistake passing that bill was. But even so, going back to what I was saying earlier, you actually had to pay the people who were already living here and a living wage. That includes the blacks as well, and other ethnic demographics who have immigrated here. Digging out the spot for a concrete pad to make a pool. Turns out you need to pay your own kids to do the work. You can't just abuse them for free labor like boomers did and do. Yes, exactly. You actually need to compensate. Now I get it, right? Doing some chores, but digging shit out for a pool, that is not a household chore. That is a job. That is an actual job. That is not a chore. A chore is making your bed, brushing your teeth, mowing the lawn, maybe cleaning out the gutters. That's a chore. That is not a job. Okay? That is not a job. A job is digging shit. A job is filling the concrete needed for the pool. A job is actually treating the water so it can be a pool. That's not a chore, geriatric boomer fucks. That's a job. And if you're going to task your own kids with jobs, you better fucking compensate them for it.
Is how every country lived, importing enormous amounts of cheap labor to undercut...
Yes, and also, I forgot to mention the African heat as well. This is in Africa! Things are going to get hot. So, hey, better give them water too, and a lot of it.
The locals wasn't really possible until globalization. But for Afrikaners, they have always had access to some form of cheap labor. So doing your own washing up and your own gardening, or building your own house, or paying someone a decent wage for such a task is quite a large change for many. But also the town sees it as a way to say, you claim Africans, not Afrikaners, built South Africa, because they were the ones doing the physical work. While we here built every single thing. And Only we can claim it as a result. I cannot stress enough that this idea is far more radical.
So Callum, again, he's a British foreigner. That little girl was waving to him. That is something people do in a high trust society. It's like, wave to each other. It's like, hello. Things are good here. Things are very fucking good here.
And extreme, not only in South Africa, but to the entire modern cheap labor model of the United States and Western Europe, than the Afrikaners only.
Yeah, true. You also don't see that anywhere else besides high trust white societies. I'm just gonna say it. I don't fucking care. Even if I'm on Twitch. You only see this in white societies.
Only town concept, but is also purposeful. If you are going to have a place for you and your people only, you cannot do that whilst importing cheap foreign labor.
Exactly, Callum, exactly. America used to be that way, where we didn't need foreign labor. Now, granted, for the railways, there were Chinese workers who sent part of their wages back to China. And there were the conflicts about that. But for the most part, the work that was being done in America was done by Americans. And if there was something like the railroad projects, there were going to be people who would protest it. The importation of foreigners. There were also Irish day laborers. Yes, that's who I'm talking about. Those are the people who basically built the railroad tracks.
People point fingers at us because of the previous regime, and they said what you did with us is you used us for labor in your mines, in your forestry, in your agriculture, and you did not want to give us voting rights, which we understand to some extent because the British, when they colonized South Africa, many of our rights were taken away, and we kind of understand that. There was,
and that is also true. The British were also not the nicest to the Afrikaners, as Callum went over, earlier in the video.
Something to be understood there also after the Second Anglo-Boer War. So you want the labor, the cheap labor, but you don't want to give these people the same voting rights, because if they have it, they will dictate society. So never again will the Afrikaners...
Yes, exactly, Dusty. There is a big but in that but.
Afrikaners of Orania been pointed to and be told that you used us to build your future. You used cheap black labor to build your future. You didn't want to give them certain rights. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is purely demographical. If the Afrikaner wants to create a home for itself, where it can make its own decisions as a people, there can be no other way than being a demographic majority in own area. And if we want to remain a majority as such, we need to be doing our own work, because the laborers always become the majority.
You get the ethnic
homogenization. He is absolutely correct in that. The workers become the majority. I think that the workers in America should not be a bunch of people who just got off the boat from fucking India. I think it should be Americans like myself who help out with the more complicated labor tasks that I got a fucking master's degree for. I spent 2 years learning what I need to learn to get my degree. I want to fucking use it.
Deity of the society, with the stability and the benefits that brings, but you have to pay your working class slightly more. That's the trade-off.
Not a bad trade-off, if I say so myself. If they do a good job, it's like, hey, I'd pay you even more. That as long as they have the money
that they're offering. And you can definitely feel the benefits of this in Orania. Crime here is so low that it puts England to shame. Never mind South Africa. I rented a Chinese electric vehicle and could easily drive it around at night, feeling perfectly safe. So I just want to film here. I am driving this little being chilling in South Africa in the middle of the night on some dirt-ass road in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, it's rickety and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But the main thing is I'm alive. Like, I can ride this thing, get to my destination, and no one's gonna kill me. Amazing things are happening in South Africa. Alright, I just want to quickly talk about how recklessly safe this place is. Even though I'm starting to forget myself. I'm usually quite aware when I travel. And then I went in there, filmed the swimming pool, got back. I left the bloody key in the car. All you need to do is turn it on. Take the handbrake off. And you're ready to go. So yeah, someone could have taken this and I would have been a lot of shit, but no one's going to. So this here is the Cook Sisters monument. Cook sister is not cuckold sister, no, it means cook as in cooking. And these things here, apparently, dough, carved up like that and then covered in syrup. And it was a traditional way in which Afrikaner women could raise money for various Afrikaner causes.
Oh,
so,
wow.
They have a monument to one of their little desserts.
Talk about actually respecting women. Talk about that. This is how you do that. Not by giving them voting power. You offer them tributes to their work, to the development of the nation. That's what, and also you could even see this in like antiquity.
It's just wholesome. It's very wholesome. Not sure what we do with a sausage roll monument, but not saying no. Someone wants to build one. Okay, unfortunately the entire plaque is in Afrikaans, so I can't read that. But this monument here, it is Mr. Kruger. But Mr. Kruger is a controversial figure here, in the sense of South Africa. But he is an important man of the Afrikaners. And so, as is common in the United States or pieces of Britain and the English-speaking world, any great man of your history who has become now vilified by political movements, they take the statues, they pull them down and destroy them. And so the Afrikaners out here, who are building their
I have not forgotten the destruction of the statue of Robert E. Lee. That is something you cannot forget. And again, I am not full white. But I am an American. I am an American. And controversial as Robert E. Lee was, there was a feeling when I saw that statue being destroyed. I felt like part of our history was being destroyed. They are trying, these people, these leftists, right? They constantly say, the Confederacy is bad, but it's like you're telling us at the same time that we should forget this bad part of our history because black people? Huh? Genuinely, I'm just like, he shouldn't, that statue should still be around. He is part of American history. He is one of the most influential generals in American history. Even though he was on the quote-unquote losing side, right? Still, we should remember the Confederacy. We really should. They are a part of our history, and if we lose that part of our history, what does that accomplish? Nothing. Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. Actually, it makes your worldview even more nonsensical, leftists. Because by erasing the Confederacy, you are erasing somebody you could call an oppressor. And your whole worldview is basically based on this. this oppressor-oppressed dynamic. What happens when you get rid of an oppressor, in your view? What happens? Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of the Confederacy. I mean, a lot of Jews were involved in it too. Kind of like in the Union, let's be real. Jews have been involved in basically every aspect of American history, and not for good reasons. But regarding what I've just said, what is the point of destroying the Confederacy from history? What's the point?
For the corner town, decided that they would just build their own. Screw it. Yeah, you want to tear one down? Fuck it, we'll just build another one. Just build another statue. So yeah, they have a little monument hill somewhere with a bunch.
They want the white southern man who are the ones who primarily go to fight every fucking foreign war since World War I to forget their history.
More of these Afrikaner heroes, some of them controversial. And no, they're not letting them be destroyed by political movements who dislike them, regardless of if you consider them controversial or not. So I'm going to talk about the main thing that I found in this place that I wasn't expecting. I'd seen like Lauren Southern's video about this place and some others. And
oh, Lauren Southern, I bet she framed everything about this place pretty well.
That's the main thing here, like just...
I'm being facetious.
Got this whole town centre. And then outside, you've got these cabins and houses and whatnot that are extremely nice. And yeah, like it's huge. It's not small. And there's an awful lot of unpaved road.
I'd love to live in somewhere like this, but I'm not full white, and I don't know a lick of Afrikaans to save my life.
They even have their own electricity production in their solar panel farm, which produces as much power as it can for the town, but when it produces an excess, it actually sells it to South Africa, which I got to see in action. In fact, I got to meet the Minister of Electricity and ask
Gamma, if you are still here, we finally reached to the part where we get to the power stuff. Orania actually does sell. Orania does actually sell their excess power to mainland South Africa. It also helps keep the Enclave afloat too.
Him about this, and he told me a funny story, which is when they wanted to sell the excess electricity to the South African state as an export, they had to have a sit down with the South African government because they own the electricity in the country. Needless to say, the ANC government, not big fans of the Afrikaner-only town, but the country suffers with routine blackouts because it can't generate enough electricity. So the electricity company sat down.
Spoon, Damien, if you're somehow watching this, it's like, what, 4 a.m. for you guys? Don't think you'd be awake. But, do you guys suffer routine blackouts?
With the guys from Orania. And the first thing they asked was whether or not the accounts were in order, meaning, do these guys pay their bills? And if so, do they pay it on time or not? And the guys on the ANC side said, Minister, these are probably your best customers in the country. They always pay their bills in full, always on time. Something quite rare in South Africa. And so they got the rights to sell the extra electricity back to the grid to then be used when they need to import it, until they can get their full independence. An independence which they are working towards in regards to...
I hope Orania gets independence. I hope they do. They fucking deserve it. For all the work they put in making this thriving community through a lot of sweat. Hard work and sweat. They deserve independence. I hope they achieve it. God willing, I pray they achieve independence in the near future. That would be awesome. I think that would be a good thing for the African continent. And they maintain this view, this culture that they have.
To water, electricity, food supply, etc. And in that aim to move towards their independence, they even have their own currency, this being the aura, which is kind of genius. Apparently at first people were hesitant to use the damn thing. But then when they realized that you can only use this currency in the town, Well, why would you rob the town? I mean, it's the ultimate deterrent to criminals. If you can only use the town's currency within the town's economy, if an outside criminal came to rob the place, where are they going to spend it? So then it ended up being beloved.
Dusty, Damien is notorious for staying up late. He'd still be up at this hour.
By the townsfolk. With the whole thing serving as a platform on which to build an Afrikaner independent state. Haven't we been here before?
The basic idea of Orania, I would say, is Afrikaners live here. That is a given. That is who should apply to come here, and then it's a question of integration. The question is, at the end of the day, did the community accept you or not? That is key. And if you're going to be a troublemaker, organize a pride parade in Orania, or disavow our history, reject our culture if you are blatantly not an Afrikaner, these people will not accept you.
Yeah, you have to actually be an Afrikaner. You can't just, be white and live here. You have to be an Afrikaner. You cannot import modern day degeneracy that Afrikaners in the past did not ever do. There were no such thing as pride parades before the modern day. That's just one example. But let's listen to this group of young folk here, huh?
I would say it's quite safe, it's really clean, and
they even know English.
Is involved in everything.
I think that's probably the biggest part, is that the community is almost everyone is Afrikaner, or while everyone is Afrikaners that lives here in this community, and it really makes it feel like home.
Hey Spoon, you should
because
apply
it's your
here.
community, and the goal of this community is the culture, to preserve the culture. So it's your culture, which makes it feel like your people, your home.
I've lived in another town where I grew up, and since we moved here, it's a whole lot better here. It's just so much more fun. People might say it's boring and it's so small and there's not much to do, but
those young guys are
much better here than any other place for me.
What did you know? The young women are feminine. The young men are in good shape. Shocker. Wow.
Okay, so driving around, I'm at a little Bing chilling over here. And I gotta admit, this place is like those cartoons about the 50s, where the far right will say that everyone was ethnically homogenous and everyone was happy and the kids played in the pools and everyone had their own little house and blah blah blah. That doesn't mean there's no problems. Of course there's problems, there's always bloody problems in life. But yeah, no, those drawings and whatnot, that's what this place is. I love this thing so much. This is so much fun. I want one of these back in England, but I know full well it's probably bloody illegal to drive this. If you look across the river, you'll find a friendly face. The great Limpopo River, full of power, full of grace. However, the town is not immune to South Africa. That big road that runs in between them, well, on one side of the road is a massive mine, and on the other side of the road is Port Elizabeth. Trucks go from one side, get filled up, get overburdened to the point that they will destroy the road on the way back. They drive down, so that side of the road is just completely ruined. And so when people leave the town, they re-enter South Africa, and accidents on that road of trucks driving into people are not uncommon. In fact, whilst we were there, we had to respond to a call to go out and see if people were okay in a road collision. The place feels like another country while you're there, and that's kind of because it sort of is. But it's also a moral threat to the Rainbow Nation idea of South Africa. And in that war, South Africa is losing. People keep moving to Orania and paying a premium for it because of what they can supply versus what the South African state can supply, which is not a lot. I should also mention that
the South African state, like, what can they really do? They are the epitome of societal collapse. The people do not know how to maintain the infrastructure for the most part. There are exceptions, obviously. But we've seen the collapsed road earlier on. The current South African state can't really provide people with jobs. they can't really do much. They're more focused on lining up their own pockets. Again, they're materialists through and through.
These people love braais. The town had a spit braai communally outside the Milk and Honey Cafe on my last day. And it was at this moment, watching them eat with their hands and being mocked for using cutlery, that I realized these people are savages. My local
I'd fit right in that regard.
Taxi driver had me over for a braai at his house on the last day, and it was genuinely some of the best food I've ever had, which is a top traveling tip. You will never find the best food in a country in any Michelin star restaurant, no local chains. The best food you will ever find in a country is at a local person's house.
Yes, and also try to avoid the street food in certain countries. What was that, sir? Are you talking shit about India, sir? Oh, what did you know? India street cuisine, super clean, super yummy, super clean, sir. Fuck you, sir. I fuck your mother, sir.
So I decided to fly again this time to Cape Town, as everyone had mixed stories about the place. It was either hell on earth or heaven on earth, or both, depending on what you were reading. The city has an extremely bad homicide issue, with murders pretty much every single day, from gangs operating out of the shantytowns, which you can see upon landing from the plane, right next to the normal homes. Again, I was limited to Uber, as the local taxis are scammers, and it's entirely common for tourists who rent a car to drive onto the wrong street out of the airport and immediately be robbed and or killed. But I met with a local man, this being a half Afrikaner, half English chap, from the Cape Independence Party.
Well, the Western Cape has always been a unique part of South Africa, so we are historically unique. We were an independent colony of the British Empire before 1910. We're ethnically, culturally, linguistically unique, where in the rest of South Africa the primary languages are your mostly African languages of, isiXhosa, isiZulu and others. In the Western Cape, it's more languages that are rooted in the West. So you have the Afrikaans language, that is the largest, and then you've also got the English language too. And we're also the only province in South Africa where racial minorities currently constitute the majority of the province's population. But most importantly is the fact that we are ideologically different from the rest of South Africa as well. So since 1994, while at every election the ANC has pretty much dominated the results leading up to 2024, in the Western Cape, the ANC has never once received a majority of the Western Cape vote. But despite that, because we have a highly centralised political system, we're always subject to the decisions made at the national government level.
And the Cape Town area does have some very, very, very nice areas. As we drove around the rich areas of the docks, the gardens and the wineries, and even the beaches and their penguins. Steers, okay, so we got steers. I just want to show for the American audience, so my friend here, he got a regular Coke, and a regular Coke in South Africa looks like this. You can see, I don't know, comparison to my head. We'd probably call that small even in England, but in America I think that's a child's portion. And then I got the large, wondering how large is, and that's large. That's it. Wow. As big as it goes. Wherever I go, there's always a pile of remotes.
Have you seen these signs as well?
Penis enlargement, lost lover, financial problems.
Even in the nicer part of Cape Town, you see this third world bullshit even here.
Okay. If I need a penis enlargement in Cape Town, I know where to go.
Or you have financial problems, it covers both.
Yeah, same thing. If you need a bigger cock, come to Africa.
I've never heard of anyone taking those signs up for their offers. I wouldn't trust it.
Well, someone must be, or they wouldn't keep doing it. Probably just a scam. Probably just take all your money and leave.
I want you to use my picture. I want you to put it. I want you to put it.
Reminds me too much of the malls. Yeah, a lot of those scam stores are in malls, like in the US as well. I think
so
this was a train station.
This is Grand Central train station in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And it's ancient train station with ancient murals and African market. Do you mind if I take a look at this real quick?
Wow.
This is the old information booth.
Yeah, this used to be an old train station. Ooh. I personally don't really like what it's become. Yes, remember South Africa used to be an actual country.
The floors apply counter, something in Afrikaans, I assume same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Look there. Like old stone carvings. It's weird that it's just been turned into
probably see that
a market.
those
To the spirits and life work of Cecil John Rhodes, who loved and served South Africa. It's like that scene from Chernobyl, you know, the HBO series. I served the Soviet Union. I served South Africa.
Huh. Apartments, huh?
And they still have
It's not
trains.
a hotel.
Yeah.
You guys still have trains. There's no dot matrix display showing when the next train's going to come, but...
We're still probably about a few decades away from that.
Okay. Also, I love there's a little sign there that just says you can't bring any AKs, axes, swords. I don't know what the
very
next one
South
is.
African.
Are you going to get in the photo?
But yeah, you can't bring your axe on the train. Sorry to say.
Huh.
So as I say, edited from the Population Registration Act number 30 of 1950. A white person is in appearance white and not coloured. A coloured person is a person who is not a white or a Bantu. I got told the way it used to
Bantu,
work
huh?
is they put a pencil in your hair, and if the pencil stayed in your hair, then you were black.
Yes.
And just like the Bulawayo Club in the Zimbabwe video, Cape Town has its own Cape Town Club, which thanks to its current chairman has been perfectly preserved in its original building with the most wonderful treasures of the past as a perfect place to drink for its members. So the Cape Town Club also has two very important rooms, which are all wood, so sorry about the noise in the background. As you can see, they have Encyclopedia Britannicas for their use, because why would you not? But this room here is for him, Mr. Smuts.
Interesting. I remember seeing something like this in, I've seen this video before, but I also remember seeing something similar in his Zimbabwe video. And basically, it's just like, okay, you actually get to see some real cultural relics. I love seeing stuff like this. It reminds me of like, okay, this is the history of this place. These are the people who built it up. And basically the way things are going, they are not honoring the people who built up that nation.
But this room is not just named after a man. It's where a man and his friends declared war. As you can see here, Civil Service Club. Around this table on Sunday evening, the 3rd of September 1939, General Smuts and 6 other cabinet ministers supporting him drafted the war resolution carried the next day in Parliament. Something interesting about British political life from the olden days. These days it's a lot more disappointing. But back in the heyday, if you go and read the textbooks, what you'll find is quite a lot of the time politics is this. It's clubs where you get drinks and food and you sit around talking and chatting shit and you make a decision with you and the boys and then the next day it becomes law. Apparently
Good old aristocracy, huh? That's something the States could use, is just some boys talking about politics in their little clubs, coming to a conclusion, and sharing it. That doesn't happen anymore. Well, no, it kind of does. Happened on a certain island in the, I think it went by Little St. James. I think that was the name of the island. They sure love to talk about politics there. As for the drinks, I'm thinking it was, I think the drinks were red and tasted all tomato-y. Probably had a lot of Bloody Marys.
The British system for the longest time did not have note takers. There were no minutes taken of the meetings. And so for quite some time back in London, the cabinet would meet, they would get absolutely sloshed on alcohol, And then the next day, they couldn't remember what on earth they decided. So they had to go back and find the waiters and ask them, do you remember what we were talking about? What did we decide in the end? Apparently, the war in Crimea was one of those incidents where they had to go back and ask the waiters, so do we declare war or not? And they said, yeah, apparently you declared war on Russia to join the Crimean War. Like, yes, I remember now. And then this room over here, this is where we get a little bit into politics. Of course, it's beautiful. This is officially called the Baker Room. And the chap was showing me around. He told me originally, what this should be, if we're keeping true to the origin, is this is the Rhodes Room, named after Cecil Rhodes. There is a bust of Mr. Rhodes to this day.
Cecil
now, up in Zimbabwe, politically speaking, Rhodes' history is kind of respected in a bit of a weird way. I mean, we respect the Ndebele's, and they respect the British. I mean, you go up to Matabele lands, and you've got the grave of Cecil Rhodes, and on the other side, you've got the grave of Mzilikazi, the great king of the Ndebele's. And
yeah, I remember
it's
that.
not very politically controversial up there. But down here, they've got universities, and the universities a little while back got a bit obsessed with this Rhodes Must Fall campaign. So they took down the statue of Rhodes in the university. They tried to vandalize the Rhodes Memorial, which is out here in South Africa. And so things are a little bit more taboo. So apparently they have a bunch of other Rhodes stuff, which they're keeping in the attic. And we're waiting for all of this to blow over.
Good, I hope this does all blow over. Rhodes is an important man in Rhodesian history and South African history. There should not have ever been a campaign to try to get rid of him. But I know why they tried to get rid of him. You can't have whites reflecting on their heroes now, can we?
Oh, so these are like in the Salisbury Club and the Bulawayo Club. These are guest books detailing everyone who came, little comments. And they're bloody huge. Let's be a little bit naughty.
Uh-oh! Callum! Low trust
April 13th,
behavior!
1951. The Civil Service Club, the men who came.
I find this
Peter
very
Kleber.
interesting.
Oh,
As somebody with a
it's all
history
still
degree,
here.
I find this very
Just like the Bulawayo Club and the original Salisbury Club, the Cape Town Club, which was founded by Rhodes, has a snooker room. Yep, wrong one. In need of a little work. As you can see, these massive tables.
That's a... Oh,
that
wow.
snooker is. Old original holes, netting, these massive cues over here. And of course, the things to help you reach over the table. We have these chests, and the old scoring system. Just move the thing up and down. Wow, just made of wood. People wondering, snooker is a very different game to pool. Takes a lot longer, quite a bit more skill. Okay, so Trump's offering refugee status to white Afrikaners.
This is something I wanted to get to for a while. So for context, because of all the slaughtering of the Boer, the white farmers in South Africa, Trump has offered many of them refugee status in America, and many of them did take it. But here is the difference between the Afrikaners and other refugee populations. The Afrikaners want to go back to their land. It goes back to their attitude of like, this is our land. We have developed this place. We have turned it into what it is today. We do not like what's going on here. That is, again, to repeat myself, the refugees, the Afrikaners living in America who are refugees, want to go back to their homeland. They do not want to stay here forever. Compared to other refugee populations, they absolutely want to stay here forever and reap our welfare system for as much as it's worth. Same thing applies to the to the refugees in Western Europe.
But being English, I'm more interested in the English South Africans as well.
Yes.
What's going on with them? How are they faring life different from the Afrikaners?
I think a big difference between the Afrikaner and the English are that the Afrikaners are far more organised than the English in terms of their community. So they're able to far more effectively communicate their plight to the rest of the international community, where you don't...
Actually, hold on. Give me 1 second, and then we'll wrap up the stream. I'll be right back. Okie dokie, I am back. Let's wrap up the stream. My goodness, Enoch. What the fuck? Let's see. I remember watching a video of Salt Dick. That's what English South Africans are called. Of a Salt Dick. He lives in China, and he says it's better to live in China than South Africa. Doesn't surprise me. Geez, Enoch. Anyways.
Have a English equivalent of AfriForum or the Solidarity Movement. So any views that emerge from those communities can't really be represented as well to the rest of the international community. And you've also got more of an ideological divide among English South Africans, which you don't really get among Afrikaners. So Afrikaner South Africans are far...
Salt Dick, pretty sure they're called Sooties. I see.
Conservative.
Bit more humanizing,
While
I think.
South Africans, you do get quite a few conservative English South Africans increasingly as the country deteriorates, but you've still got a large liberal contingent, and by liberal I mean a left-wing liberal contingent that is still
okay,
hell-bent
Enoch,
on
I think
trying
you're
to
annoying one of the
preserve
mods.
the Rainbow Nation as is effectively.
Might want to cool it.
Yeah, they're quite content with the current status quo.
Not to mention the surrounding countryside is genuinely beautiful. Cape Town, as a result, attracts the wealthiest, not only of South Africa, but also of the world, to have a home here. But then you go back...
I saw the rainbow flag as well. Ugh. Eee. Gross. Goes to show where their values lie. And of course, because it's probably the rich people that are promoting pride in this area. Yeah. Oy vey.
Back into Cape Town proper, away from the gated communities, back into reality, and South Africa re-enters your life. The decay, the barbed and electric wire, the constant concern about crime and death. I mean, I was staying in one of the most touristy sections of the place to avoid the real problem areas. literally, this is meant to be the area that's so separated off from reality, tourists don't have to worry about anything. And so I decided to go for a walk and walk down.
They should promote Orange Pride? You mean Citrus Pride? I mean, well, we already have that in Tropicus County. They don't need to, like, I don't think the South Africans need to be forced to celebrate the, you know, my people.
Down to Nando's. Nando's being a firm which was founded in South Africa between a Portuguese man and a Jewish immigrant.
Okay. Okay, damn, I like Nando's. It's good. There's Nando's in America. It's pretty good.
And it's a beautiful South African succession story which is translated over into Britain. And as you're walking down this place...
And America.
There's just homeless guys hanging out. You know, it stinks of piss. Some of them are clearly on drugs and are staring at you. So you don't know what the hell they're going to do. You just don't feel safe in any capacity. And again, this is in the touristy as hell area that I was staying. Because I didn't want to stay in the area where I, you know, couldn't step outside. And even there's just barbed wire and razor wire and electric wire. It's just overwhelming how much you have to constantly think about crime. All right, I'm leaving today. Finally getting on the plane, getting out of here.
Yeah, I'm glad that that Callum was able to safely leave the country. I'm surprised he's been to some really dangerous places before. If he goes to let's see, those other two, you know, the top two murder capitals of the world, one of them including St. Vincent and the Grenadines. God help him. Genuinely, God help him.
And, that couldn't come sooner, if I'm honest. Been to a lot of places. Been to a lot of places that are considered dangerous or have difficulties with traveling around them.
1 second.
Terrorists, intelligence agencies, war. And none of them compare to how much I really dislike this place. I gotta be honest. And what's crazy is you look out the window, and it looks like paradise. All these rich areas, all this lovely stuff to do, and blah blah blah. And it's not that I don't like that. It's that I can't stand that I live in a fucking cage. I can't walk anywhere without having to deal with beggars and junkies and people I don't even know if they're gonna rob me or not. There are shanties and...
So, when I was living in a city, the thoughts that of, okay, somebody is probably gonna do a crime around here. And I lived in a pretty nice apartment, mind you. It was not that far away from a bar, not that far away from campus, and even then, crime still happened around, on, and off campus. Police were constantly around the bar areas. I get why, young people, they could drink a bit too much, and it's like, they can't go back, and they just gotta go to the hospital. No, I get that. But the fact that police were around specifically because of crime that could happen, it's fucking nutty, man. Like, I've said this before. Long-time viewers would know, from the old channel. But I've been fucking roofied before. I was able to make it back to my place. I'm a pretty big dude. Got some body fat, got some muscle on me. And one roofie ain't gonna take me out, but that has happened before. I'm not the only one who's been roofied in that area. That was a very red-pilling event. But basically, I from that moment on, I was thinking, it's like, oh shit, this place is more dangerous than I thought it was. And then I took a look at the current state of South Africa. Oh boy, I'd be more of a hermit than I already am if I was living there. Like, if I was literally plopped into, like, into Cape Town or Joburg, I would quite literally just be a shut-in. Truly, I would just be a shut-in. I would be petrified to probably even look outside the window. And the funny thing is, as an American citizen, I can absolutely see America being like this, and not even just in the big cities, but like all over the country. I could absolutely see this being the case. Where it's like, you need private security. Like, everything is fenced off. Everything is so dangerous and so crime-ridden that it's like, you literally will get insurance for civil unrest. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is in South Africa.
Squatters, and everyone has to have bars on their windows and electric razor wire and blah, blah, blah. And you can't walk. You've got to drive. Now, in America, that's sort of normalized, because once upon a time you could walk some of their cities, and then they decided to redesign them so you could only drive them. And it means that the public transport system and pathways have just been sacrificed to the homeless and the mentally insane and the dangerous.
That's why I want to live in a more rural area. There used to be a pronghorn going up my area. Now it's just police sirens every night. No pronghorn anymore. I say. But in South Africa, do you really want to be living in a rural area in South Africa? A rural place in America is still pretty nice compared to South Africa.
So people don't want to use them. That's why Americans don't use public transport in the end. It's got nothing to do with giving up their cars. It's because the people on the public transport are dangerous.
Yes.
And a similar thing has happened here. I just can't walk anywhere. I can't do stuff like that. Whereas in Iraq or Syria or Afghanistan or Donbass at the war zone, I can walk around just fine. I trust that the civilian population is not going to murder me. I can just be friendly with them. Everyone's friendly. Whereas out here, because of that level of crime, there's just so much distrust. You can't make friends with random strangers. And I hate
Orania, gotcha, Rexus, gotcha.
it. I can't stand living like this. I don't know how South Africans live like this. In their little golden cages, going from fortress to fortress.
I'd love to interview Spoon about a lot of the stuff that I've heard here tonight and before. I'd love to interview him about this. It's like, because he lived in Ireland for most of his life, and now he's back in South Africa, even though he was born, somewhat raised there. I could always ask Damien for an interview as well. I just have to tell him, try not to seduce me, it's not gonna work. But I would absolutely love to have like an interview, especially with Spoon. I won't lie, especially with Spoon.
I know a lot of South Africans are going to be like, what's the problem? It's completely normal. This is how we live. You guys aren't living normally. That's just how I gotta put it. Even people in war zones live lives that
I agree. As an American, I agree that this is not how anybody should be living, with like constant security. Just like, I don't see this as living. I see this as like hell. It's like the fact that crime is so prevalent, and the fact that I see my own country going down in this exact direction in the future, that should tell you something. It really should. That is not any way to live. That's not how we are meant to live as humans. We are not meant to be caged. We are meant to be, a big part of human nature is that we are social. We need to talk to each other. We need to be around each other. And being in a cage is not conducive to that. And I know why that's the case. And we all know who, especially in South Africa, we all know who's committing the crimes. Kind of the same deal in America. All the violent crimes, they're being committed by a certain population.
I find more normal than how you guys live. This isn't even getting into any of the politics or any of that stuff. It's just the day-to-day life of being someone who's not at the bottom. Sucks. I just don't like it. I just don't enjoy it. So that's that. Life in Orania. Loved Orania. Could walk around there, day, night, no problem. That's
Also,
normal life.
Rexus,
That's South Africa,
good luck
how it should be.
if you try to apply. Good luck.
Overarching crime problem. Getting there is a mountain and something for South Africans to solve. Just, I'd much rather be in Iraq than here. The place irritates me with the can't trust people. You can't walk anywhere. You don't know if where you go next might be your last. It's just... And South Africans are going to be like, what? But if you know where the safe areas, it's fine. Just go to the safe areas. I don't know where the safe areas are. I'm a tourist. The thing about Syria...
And why should a tourist be expected to know? That's the thing. A tourist is there to try to experience the best of a country, not the worst. Like, it seems like if I were to go to South Africa tonight, it would probably be hell for me. I don't think I would be able... I probably would be dead if I went there. That's not a good look for tourism for the nation.
Is you've got political factions killing each other. The political class are different political factions. They're going to use violence to kill each other to get political power. That's what's going on. That's what it is. That's fine. Political class want to kill each other? Whoop-de-doo. Civilian population can just get on with their lives. Whereas living like this just sucks. I mean, I imagine this is what El Salvador was like before they cleaned up all the gangs. And, yeah, it's weird. Crime makes you far less free than war. But I did really want...
Yeah, exactly. Crime makes you less free than war. Because compared to crime, there are standards to warfare. For the most part, Israel seems to disobey them all the time. We're never going to hold them to trial. If we do, they'd just nuke us all. Life would be extinct.
Want to get out and go to those shanty towns and see what real life is actually like. And so I managed to get a number off a friend who said he would meet me in Hanover Park. And so the plan was for me to get an Uber and meet him in Hanover Park, which is one of these places. And so I asked some of the coloured postal workers when I was sending off a package, the Zimbabwean Uber drivers, and the coloured and black hotel staff all the same question, which is, what do you think of this idea? And every single one of them told me, if you go there, you will die. Not maybe, you will. And honestly...
Also, how are you supposed to get any sort of accurate picture of what it's like living in the slums if the people who are actually interested in going there are just gonna fucking die? You probably have a better time living in the slums of India compared to South Africa. Or like Nicaragua. Or any other, like, shantytown place. You might have a chance of survival in other shantytowns. Not in South Africa, though. Even if you're from the shantytowns, you'd probably still get killed. Yeah, remember when people tell you to dive, remember when people tell you you'll die if you go there, better to stay away. Yep. That's how bad it is.
Honestly, I just had enough at this point. I don't know how people in South Africa deal with it. The just constant pressure of crime in your life. So I said another time, maybe, and I'd go and meet the guy. It was a real shame, because there's some weird things you can find in those shanty towns. Like the Wakanda Forever restaurant or the Orthodox Church.
You know, the African Orthodox Church. That is I believe that's an Ethiopian Orthodox Church, so go there at your own discretion. Can't encourage you to go to one.
No, I can't say for sure if I would have died there, because, I just decided, no, I've had enough. You speak to South Africans, both rich and upper class whites and blacks, and they will tell you that it's not that bad. And I'm here to tell you, it is. Sorry.
Hey, night, Enoch. Good night, my friend.
You've got some absolutely fantastic places in your country that are wonderful. That's true. Does not compensate for the fact that I can't trust the civilian population. Give me jihadist Middle East country any of the day. When you deal with jihadists, like in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, you know where they stand, you know where you stand, and as long as you don't mess with the politics, you don't mess with religion, you're going to be fine. You know, there are factions up there fighting each other. The civilian population in all of those places can, by and large, be trusted to be honest and work with you, and you don't have to worry about criminals. In South Africa, you don't have that luxury. And I don't think South Africans realize just how much of a drain that is as a societal change. And the fact that it's just...
And it all goes back to the history. But let's have Callum finish, and then I could get to my closing thoughts before I end the stream and just play some Strive.
It's inhuman. It really feels inhuman to live that way, not knowing if you can just take your dog for a walk and trust the guys down the street to not kill you. It's exhausting, because it just doesn't matter how many rights you have written in the law. The South African Constitution gives its citizens more rights than any other country on earth. It doesn't matter. If you can't walk home safe at night, you're not a free person. Anywho, if you like the video or like to support...
Wow. That is a powerful way to end a damn good documentary. Personally, for me, this struck out to me on second viewing. I found it even more blackpilling than the first time I watched it. Because it's like, okay, now that I've learned the basics, I was able to apply a little bit more knowledge in the second viewing. And essentially, what I found was the fact that, yeah, I think the only hope South Africa has as a nation is to just let Orania develop. Just let it develop. Let the rest of it collapse. Damien and Spoon need to move to Orania as soon as they can, even though Damien isn't full white. Also, apartheid should have never been removed. They should have never repealed apartheid. I could fully say that now. Having watched everything, was South Africa better before apartheid got removed, or is it better after apartheid got removed? And my answer to that question is, the country was better before apartheid got removed. If only the South African military and police were actually able to manage the crowds as they should have. And also, maybe quell the communists before they even got started. You know, the modern communists. Like the ones in charge of the government. Because the ANC are communist. For all intents and purposes, they are communist. But alas, my final closing thoughts on this. I hope that you guys can see the path that we in America are on. If we continue all this bullshit of DEI, H-1B, illegals coming in mass, and much, much more, if we continue all this, this is where we will end up. I do not want to live in global South Africa. I do not want that. And I am personally tired of Jews trying to make that a thing. I am very fucking tired of it. But with that said, I have ranted long enough. Good night, my friends, and God bless.